Chapter 2451. Among the group of immortal level masters, these immortal levels were not very eye-catching. They were the top masters of the middle generation of various tribes and forces. Even if they were not as powerful as the young Fire Emperor and the others, they were still powerful existences above the immortal level. Among this group of people, their abilities were not eye-catching, but they were particularly eye-catching. Even the immortal levels have come to join in the fun. Do they really think that they can snatch it? Someone sneered and said. A few immortal levels wanted to snatch food from the mouth of a tiger. It was really wishful thinking. Qin Lai and the others were silent. They did not speak, nor did they explain. Why are there only a few of you from the martial sect this time? Where are the others? Suddenly, a scornful voice appeared, denouncing the people from the martial sect as a group of little ghosts. Of course, with the age of Qin Lai and the others, they could only be regarded as a group of little ghosts. When Qin Lai was born, many of these people were already famous in the world. It was a white jade trunk elephant who stood out and sneered at Qin Lai and the others. It's him. No wonder he wants to provoke the disciples of the martial sect. It is said that he once slaughtered a human tribe and was chased by a senior of the martial sect to the ends of the earth. In the end, he barely escaped. I didn't expect to see him here this time. He is really brave. Someone immediately recognized the origin of the white jade trunk elephant. How could an ordinary person have the guts to provoke a disciple of the martial organization? Wasn't that courting death? As a sect established by Emperor Qin, who had undoubtedly become an emperor since ancient times, there was no doubt that the martial organization was powerful. It was not something that ordinary people could imagine. Only those who were already being hunted would dare to do so. How dare you show up? Do you really think that there is no one in the human race? Qin Lai glanced at the white jade trunk elephant coldly. Don't talk about the human race. I'm just targeting the martial sect. The martial sect is not just the human race, right? You're just a junior who has only achieved Tao for a few hundred years, and you dare to be arrogant in front of me. It seems that I really have to teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. The white jade trunk elephant said coldly. It seems that your IQ has not improved after so many years. It is really ridiculous. Qin Lai said coldly. The white jade elephant was enraged and roared. I think you're courting death. The white jade long trunk elephant roared angrily and stomped down with its foot. Heaven and earth were collapsing, but the power was controlled very cleverly and only appeared within this area. It was very powerful and had already entered the imperishable realm. It was very impressive. How dare you show off your insignificant skills in front of me? It just so happens that I'm still lacking a mount. Just be my mount obediently. Qin Lai immediately attacked. His fist turned into a golden dragon and directly shattered the white jade elephant shockwave. The white jade elephant was a little surprised. It did not expect Qin Lai, an immortal level, to be able to break its attack. Although he did not use his full strength, it was more than enough to deal with an ordinary immortal level. After all, immortal level and immortal level were two completely different levels. They were more than 10 times more powerful. I think you're looking to die. Divine elephant trampling. He roared and stomped down on Qin Lai. Break it for me? Qin Lai roared, and a sword intent suddenly appeared in his hand. It swept up and directly pierced the huge elephant's leg. Bang! There was a loud sound, and the huge elephant's leg was pierced by Qin Lai's sword. Countless blood spurted out from the elephant's leg. Roar! The white jade elephant roared in pain. It had never thought that Qin Lai's sword intent would be so terrifying. One should know that its leg was the hardest part of its body. Otherwise, it would not be able to display such amazing leg skills. Any divine weapon could be crushed in an instant. It did not expect that Qin Lai's sword intent would be able to seriously injure it. This time, not only the white jade long-nosed elephant, but even the people from the major forces who were not very concerned about it, suddenly looked at it in a new light. An immortal ranked being able to injure an eternal stage. This kind of combat power was already quite extraordinary. How could they not be surprised? Although they were disdainful, no one made trouble for Qin Lai because there was a martial arts grandmaster behind him. No one could withstand the wrath of a martial arts grandmaster. It would be fine if they killed him in private without anyone seeing. However, under the watchful eyes of so many people, they did not dare to do so. I've said it before, be my mount obediently. Unexpectedly, Qin Lai took the initiative to attack. While the white jade elephant was injured, he immediately attacked. He slapped down with his palm, and his 5 fingers turned into a mountain. It was like an ancient divine mountain, crashing down on the spot. This was also a very famous unique skill among the martial arts grandmasters. It was very difficult to deal with. The white jade elephant roared crazily. It was a great shame that it was bullied by an immortal-level warrior. It roared and swung its trunk at Qin Lai. It was as hard as a steel rod, and it was about to pierce through Qin Lai's palm. Bang! There was another loud roar. The white jade elephant's trunk exploded into a rain of flesh on the spot. Golden blood splashed into the blue sky. In the collision between the two sides, the body that it was proud of could not withstand a single blow from Qin Lai's tactics of 99. Bang! The immemorial god mountain slammed directly on the white jade long-trunk elephant's body, smashing its back into a bloody mess. The white jade long-trunk elephant wanted to get up, but before it could react, it was slapped down by Qin Lai again. It was smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. Bang! 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 The only thing that could be heard was a loud roar accompanied by the white jade long-trunk elephant's screams. Every time the white jade long-trunk elephant tried to break free and escape, it was useless. It was beaten down by Qin Lai. Are you convinced? If you're not, I'll have to kill you, Qin Lai said faintly, casually. Many of the undead level masters around could not help but be moved. They had a natural psychological advantage over the immortal level. Fundamentally, it was because the immortal level was not their opponent at all. However, when they saw Qin Lai beat up the white jade elephant of the undead level so miserably, they also felt that their dignity had been challenged. The high and mighty attitude they had towards the immortal level masters no longer existed. There were also many people who were secretly speechless. Martial Grandmaster Qin Lai could only be regarded as a rising junior. Originally, they did not take him seriously. However, he was already so powerful after just a few hundred years. If he continued to develop in the future, sooner or later, he would be on par with them. In the eyes of everyone, Qin Lai was already an existence that could vaguely be mentioned in the same breath as them. Junior, aren't you being a little too domineering? Suddenly, a young expert of the demon race attacked and slammed his palm towards Qin Lai. Although he said that Qin Lai was overbearing, his attack was even crueler. He did not even give face to the martial grandmaster. Your cultivation is still far from enough. I think you should go back and cultivate for a few more years. This time, you will not have a share of the heaven fire fruit. If you say there is no share, then there is no share. Who are you? A lazy voice came. Qin Lai and the others immediately looked happy. Whoosh! A sword chi descended from the sky and rushed down. This big hand was blown up in the air, and it almost injured the master of the demon clan behind it. Only then did everyone see Yi Shiwen's figure floating down from the sky. He stood in the sky with his hands behind his back, looking down on the world. Who do you think you are? Do you want to look down on us? The one who spoke was the master of the demon clan who had just had a big hand cut off by Yi Shiwen. It was a huge spider. It was different from ordinary spiders. Its whole body was golden, and it exuded an extremely dangerous aura. So it's him. He's really a lawless existence. Wasn't it said that he was the most powerful genius of the golden spider race? It's been a long time since a powerful figure has appeared in this race. However, he's different. He even has the potential to become a king. He's extraordinary. So what? Yi Shiwen said indifferently. He walked down step by step, then looked at the golden spider and said, You just said that his cultivation is not good enough, and he needs to go back and practice for 2 more years. I think you are the one who needs to go back and practice for 2 more years. What did you say? The golden spider opened its eyes wide and looked at Yi Shiwen with a sharp glint in its eyes. He turned into a handsome young man in front of everyone's eyes. However, he was different from ordinary people. There were two pairs of eyes on his forehead. His whole body was dark green, and there was a strange light flickering in them. Don't you understand human language? I said, this time there is no heavenly fire fruit for you. You should go back and practice for 2 more years. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. Who is he? How dare he talk to the golden spider like that? Don't you know him? He is that Yi Shiwen who had caused such an uproar before. Didn't you see the hatred in Jin Yuan's eyes when he looked at him? He is that Yi Shiwen who fought against 3 people at once. He is indeed outstanding. He dares to stand in the sky and look down on so many heroes. This courage is enough. What? The golden spider suddenly became angry. It roared and instantly spouted out countless spider silks. These silks turned into golden swords and chopped towards Yi Shiwen. This was also a lawless character who would start a fight at the slightest disagreement. He had always been an invincible character and had cultivated such an imposing manner. Just a drizzle. Is there no stronger one? No wonder this clan has not produced any strong masters for a long time. Is this all they have? Yi Shiwen said in a mocking tone. His figure shuttled back and forth between these golden swords. No matter how these swords bombarded his body, they couldn't hurt him even a little bit. Chapter 2452. These attacks fell on Yi Shiwen's body, but they couldn't do anything to him. In fact, they were completely useless. The moment the attacks landed on his body, they all collapsed and dispersed. Everyone could clearly see that the attack hadn't been blocked. Instead, it had landed on Yi Shiwen's body. However, it couldn't even break his skin. Many people held their breaths one after another. Everyone knew the strength of the golden spider very well. It was definitely not an ordinary creature. However, its attacks could not even break Yi Shiwen's defense. This was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Even the eyes of the golden spider were filled with shock and uncertainty. His spider silk was refined day and night using divine power. It was extremely powerful. An immortal realm expert would be severely injured if they were to touch it. However, all of these had fallen on Yi Shiwen's body. Not even a strand of his hair had been hurt. Such a physical cultivation was simply terrifying. It was even more terrifying than the rumors. It was not that it had never heard of Yi Shiwen's rumors, but the rumors were often exaggerated. Moreover, it had absolute confidence in its own strength. No matter who the enemy was, it could kill them. However, Yi Shiwen was much more difficult than it had imagined. If it was in the past, when the heaven fire fruit matured, it would have been fine to bear with it. However, Yi Shiwen dared to say that its cultivation was not good enough, and asked it to get lost. Although it was the one who said it first, it was true that it could not bear with it. The next time the heaven fire fruit matured would be tens of thousands of years later. Tens of thousands of years was a long period of time, even for a god with unlimited lifespan. It would not be able to wait for the next time. Clang! With a piercing sound, a long spear appeared in the hands of the golden spider. It was golden in color and covered in fur. Vaguely, it looked like a huge spider that could devour the heaven-devouring titanic beast. Hiss, that is the golden spider emperor's spear. Yes, it is the golden spider emperor's spear. It is said that the golden spider emperor's spear was refined by the legs of the king seal realm ancestor of the golden spider clan after his death. It has always been passed on to the patriarch. I didn't expect it to be passed on to him. Looks like his position in the golden spider clan has been confirmed, and no one can replace him. It's a tragedy for this race to have a successor chosen so early, but it's a great thing for him, because no one will come to compete with him for resources, and the whole race will revolve around him. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, that golden spider, holding a long spear, instantly rushed in front of Yi Shiwen. It was brave and invincible, just like a peerless general, and the long spear in its hand directly pierced towards Yi Shiwen. This golden spear light came out, and the Jinqi protecting Yi Shiwen's body instantly melted like a piece of tofu, and simply couldn't stop it. That's the Spider Emperor's poison. Legend has it that the Golden Spider Emperor's spear contains the poison cultivated by the ancestor of the Golden Spider race, Bai Sheng. It's invincible and extremely terrifying. Many people's expressions immediately changed. They all deeply knew just how terrifying this Spider Emperor's poison was. Just touching it would truly result in death. There was absolutely no chance of escaping. The young Fire Emperor and the others also secretly nodded their heads. The fight between the two of them was enough to test the limits of their strength. And they could also take this opportunity to see if they knew themselves and knew their enemy, and they would never be defeated. Both of them weren't ordinary people, and it would be for the best if both of them could injure each other. At the same time, they were also thinking about how difficult it was to deal with the Spider Emperor's poison. If they were in Yi Shiwen's place, what kind of technique would they use to deal with it? However, Yi Shiwen's attack was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Yi Shiwen simply raised his hand and struck out with his palm. The golden spider's face revealed a sinister smile. This outsider obviously didn't know how powerful the golden spider emperor's spear was. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to block it with his hand. Soon, everyone would be able to witness his tragic death. That was the poison of a titled king-level powerhouse. Bang! There was a loud sound as Yi Shiwen's palm collided with the golden spider emperor's spear. However, what really surprised everyone was that Yi Shiwen's palm didn't get pierced in an instant. On the contrary, there was only a muffled sound like thunder. The divine power spread out and swept away like a violent storm. The endless power of thunder exploded in the midst of this violent tide of divine power. Then, a layer of thunder glove appeared on Yi Shiwen's palm. Countless magic characters were flowing on it like a flowing water. With the protection of this layer of thunder glove, Yi Shiwen forcefully blocked the piercing of the golden spider emperor's spear. This attack was indeed terrifying. The power of thunder that Yi Shiwen had condensed was actually melted by the poison and penetrated through the void. However, the most important thing was that it still couldn't break through Yi Shiwen's defense. Is this all you've got? I don't think it's that great. Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed with a bit of coldness. He looked at the heaven fire fruit in the sky. Flames were constantly spitting out, and it was not far from ripening. Damn, you're going to die today. The golden spider roared, and its body flashed. In an instant, the endless aura of spear Dao emitted from its body. The golden spider emperor's spear in its hand was strange and overbearing, as if it was charging into the battlefield. The spear light was like a mountain torrent, unstoppable. Yi Shiwen still didn't move. His palm was like an ancient divine mountain, and it fell down. The endless power of thunder was wrapped around it, and it directly bombarded the golden spider emperor's spear. Boom! There was a huge explosion, and the golden spider's attack was easily blocked by Yi Shiwen. What kind of magical power is this? It's too strong. This Yi Shiwen is even more terrifying than the rumors. Many people had a lingering fear in their hearts. The only one who was in a good mood was probably Jin Yuan. You guys laughed at me, and now you see it's not that I'm too weak, but this guy is too abnormal. But it's a pity. The golden spider emperor's spear is a top-grade divine tool, and it can't display its full power now. It was actually blocked by Yi Shiwen with just his body. It's really too embarrassing. Someone couldn't help but say, but in his heart, he was even more shocked. He really looked at Yi Shiwen in a new light. This time it wasn't just rumors, but real strength. I haven't seen him for more than a year, and he's even more abnormal. Qin Lai looked at the battle between Yi Shiwen and the golden spider in the sky, and couldn't help but sigh. Not long ago, he was still high and mighty, far above Yi Shiwen, but now he almost couldn't keep up with Yi Shiwen's rhythm. In all fairness, his cultivation speed in these years wasn't slow, but who asked Yi Shiwen to be so abnormal? If he had ascended in these years by riding on a rocket, then Yi Shiwen would have flown up in a spaceship that could fly at the speed of light. Damn, among my dragon clan, there aren't many who can fight with him. Ao Yin couldn't help but say. It seemed that he was also shocked. The same was true for Monk Huizhen. The few of them were considered to have a great background, and their inheritance was extensive. Their ancestors could be traced back to their ancestors, who were either emperors or top king-level powerhouses. They could be called heroes among their peers, but in front of Yi Shiwen, they seemed to be somewhat overshadowed. Only Yi Shukong was very calm. These people had just seen Yi Shiwen's abnormal strength. He had seen it a lot when he was in the Yi clan of the remote antiquity. He and Yi Shiwen amazed the Yi clan almost at the same time. But later, even though he had many fortuitous encounters, became the disciple of a famous teacher, and joined the martial sect, he was still left far behind by Yi Shiwen. He was already too tired to complain. How could a human compare with a monster? Forget it. If this goes on, we will really be left behind by him. This can't go on. I must go back to the palace to practice. Ao Yin vowed, I want to participate in the Kurfürst Road. Are you out of your mind? Qin Lai couldn't help but look at Ao Yin and said, don't you know what kind of place it is? It's filled with the strongest monsters since ancient times. They all hold their breath and want to become the champion. They want to find that glimmer of hope. How many people have gone in and turned into ashes? Do you want to die? I don't dare to go to that place either. Monk Huijin also couldn't help but tremble. Our talent is not inferior to theirs, but our cultivation time is too far behind theirs. When the next 100,000 years starts, the three of us will be enough to sweep away everything if we join forces. Why bother going in at this time? I can guarantee that the abnormal Yi Shiwen will definitely go. When he comes out from inside, I'm afraid we won't even be qualified to look up to him. Ao Yin said unwillingly. Besides, it's not like no one has done this, right? I don't believe that I can't do it if others can do it. Let me ask you, are you going or not? All right, since you've said so, how can I say no? That's not something I can do. I will go back and find the abbot to learn the 6-word incantation and let them see that our Western paradise is the Orthodox Buddhism. Monk Huijin gritted his teeth and said, count me in, maybe there will be a big opportunity. Qin Lai said. At this time, in the midair, the golden spider began to rage because it couldn't take down Yi Shiwen for a long time. It felt completely humiliated because Yi Shiwen had only used a few moves, but he had completely restrained it. Go to hell! The golden spider let out a loud shout and swept out with his spear. The spear kept changing in the sky, transforming into millions of spear lights. What was truly terrifying was that each of the spear lights contained a completely different spear Dao. Their might was terrifying. Yi Shiwen didn't move. He didn't even use any other magical power. He just used the Han seal to transform into an ancient sacred mountain and smashed it down. The spear lights of the golden spider were completely annihilated. Except for the poison on the golden spider's emperor's spear, he didn't care about anything else. Compared to a terrifying existence like the Death Lord, it was simply not on the same level. Do you think you have broken my spearway? This is just the beginning. The golden spider let out a loud roar, and a spear suddenly appeared in the sky and pierced towards Yi Shiwen. Chapter 2453. The long spear carried an unimaginable might and set off a crazy storm. Countless powerful creatures appeared on its surface and shouted as they pounced towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. All of them were powerful existences that had been beheaded by this long spear. After their deaths, a trace of unwillingness and resentment had been attached to the long spear and had been refined to become the accomplices of the powerful enemies during their lifetime. The previous offensive was just a pretense, and this was the real attack. When everyone reacted, this spear was already close to Yi Shiwen's head, and it was about to blast Yi Shiwen's head open. Really? Is this your secret technique? It's still far from it. Yi Shiwen sneered. Now I don't have time to play with you. Break for me? Yi Shiwen's aura suddenly changed, like an ancient divine mountain, rising steeply from the ground, incomparably majestic. His whole body soared into the sky, and above his body, 9 thunder dragons condensed and slowly twined around his body. It looked as if an emperor was walking in the world. Break for me! Yi Shiwen let out a long roar, and his stature suddenly rose by a level. Then he grabbed the golden spider emperor spear that was about to pierce through his head, and then with a big stride, he instantly rushed in front of the golden spider and shot his palm down, which turned into a divine seal and fell down. Bang! The golden spider suddenly flew upside down, and its mouth repeatedly spurted out blood. In an instant, it was seriously injured by Yi Shiwen's palm, and after crashing into several mountains, it tumbled to the ground. What? The golden spider was actually defeated. It's not surprising that it was defeated, but it was actually defeated in one move. How can this Yi Shiwen be so strong? Could it be that Yi Shiwen didn't use his full strength a moment ago? Many people came to this conclusion and could not help but suck in a mouthful of cold air. The strength of the golden spider was already terrifying enough, but Yi Shiwen was actually able to contend with it without using his full strength and had seriously injured it in one move. This kind of strength was really too frightening. Did he really just step into the undead realm? In everyone's opinion, even the peak of the undead realm was not so terrifying. Go now, and I will spare your life, Yi Shiwen said coldly. You and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Being humiliated by Yi Shiwen in public, the golden spider suddenly became furious. It roared, and a boundless aura erupted from its body. Even the sky couldn't withstand such a heavy aura and suddenly shattered. Then, its whole body instantly flew up, forcibly suppressing its injuries, and rushed towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. The aura was endless, crushing the space, and instantly arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. Can't you see the truth? Yi Shiwen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and directly blasted a punch. He didn't use any special magical power, just one punch, but it was enough to shatter the world and directly hit the body of the golden spider. The golden spider let out a blood-curdling screech, and his entire body was sent flying upside down. His entire head had been blown off by Yi Shiwen. If he was not an Eternal Realm expert, then this move alone would have been enough to seriously injure him or even kill him. Oh my God! Am I seeing things? This Yi Shiwen is too savage. How terrifying! Many people sucked in a breath of cold air as they watched the golden spider being violently beaten. It was as if they had seen a miracle. This time, the golden spider was not in a hurry to find Yi Shiwen. If he still didn't know that Yi Shiwen was far from being a match for him, then his tens of thousands of years of life would have been in vain. Previously, he had been blinded by anger, but now he had completely calmed down after these 2 blows. Fellow brothers, are you going to let him continue to be arrogant? This bastard is so savage, and he doesn't put us in his eyes at all. Are you going to sit back and do nothing? The golden spider looked at the peerless figures in the sky. All of them were extraordinary people, and among them, there were many arrogant people. He hoped that some of them didn't like Yi Shiwen and would come out to stop him. He didn't believe that none of these people would be able to take care of Yi Shiwen. At this time, he didn't have any hope of a one-on-one fight. This Yi Shiwen was too abnormal. However, the reply he received was complete silence. Seeing that the heavenly fire fruit was about to ripen, no one wanted to complicate matters. Didn't the golden spider think too highly of itself just now and meddle in other people's business? That's why things ended up like this. If they stood up for him at this time, then they would be targeted by Yi Shiwen. Not only would they be beaten black and blue like the golden spider, but even if they were stalled by Yi Shiwen, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Thousands of years of planning would be ruined, and such consequences were not something they could bear. If they wanted to be in the limelight, then they would have to look at themselves first. Moreover, Yi Shiwen's strength was indeed incomparably frightening. The golden spider had tried his best, but still couldn't find out the bottom line of his true strength. This made them even more afraid to act rashly. Therefore, even those who usually had the most explosive temper and couldn't stand Yi Shiwen didn't stand up for him. Yi Shiwen dared to take the risk of losing the heavenly fire fruit to deal with the golden spider, but they didn't have the courage to do so. Moreover, with one less powerful competitor, didn't this mean that there would be one more heavenly fire fruit? Then, their chances of obtaining the fruit would be much greater. At this time, they didn't want to stand up for the golden spider. Yi Shiwen glanced at the crowd. How could he not know what they were thinking in their hearts? He couldn't help but sneer and said, "Why are you still not getting out of here? If you annoy me, then I will kill you." Compared to the others, the golden spider's background was indeed not that powerful. It was a declining clan, but it only had this outstanding character. One could imagine how much it had declined in the end. Just you wait, this matter is not over. The golden spider bitterly looked at Yi Shiwen, but ultimately didn't dare to stay. Although the heavenly fire fruit was important, But how could it be more important than its own life? Idiot, Yi Shiwen indifferently said. If it wasn't afraid of him now, then there was nothing to be afraid of in the future. The reason why he didn't bring the golden spider was because he was afraid of attracting public anger. If so, then it was very likely that it would affect his future plans. At the same time, it was also to establish his prestige and scare off some rascals, so that they wouldn't have to waste more effort. Not long after the golden spider left, a burst of strange fragrance suddenly assailed everyone's nostrils. Everyone's spirit was aroused because the heavenly fire fruit was finally ripe. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a stream of light flashed in the sky. The heavenly fire fruit separated from the sway wood and flew in all directions like shining stars in the night sky. Let's go and grab the heavenly fire fruit, Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. His figure flashed, and he rushed out. He then grabbed a heavenly fire fruit on the spot. Qin Lai and the others weren't slow either. They also rushed towards a heavenly fire fruit. There were 7 or 8 heavenly fire fruits flying towards them, and they happened to catch the attention of Yi Shiwen and the others. Yi Shiwen's speed was the fastest. He had already grabbed a heavenly fire fruit in a flash. His speed was astonishing. The heavenly fire fruit was like a ball of flame. It was engraved with simple and unadorned patterns. These patterns were not engraved on it, but were innate because they contained the flame essence of the sway wood. If the heavenly fire fruit could escape from the pursuit of everyone, it would have the opportunity to evolve into a sway fire essence. In that case, it would be truly against the natural order. However, the probability of this happening was very low. Not many heavenly fire fruits could successfully evolve in the past. Otherwise, the sway fire essence wouldn't be so precious. Yi Shiwen grabbed the heavenly fire fruit and stored it in the Tianyuan mirror. At this time, only then did he have the mind to pay attention to the situation in all directions. According to the tacit agreement of everyone, even if a person obtained a heavenly fire fruit, he could only pick one and not all of them. Otherwise, it would arouse public indignation. No one could bear the indignation of so many giants. Qin Lai and the others who were following behind him also had their eyes on a heavenly fire fruit. They grabbed it in their hands. With Yi Shiwen keeping watch, no one dared to snatch it from them. The remaining 2 heavenly fire fruits triggered a fierce competition. Many undead realm experts instantly started fighting, and even the vault of heaven was shattered. But at this time, a golden light directly rushed in, bringing with it a ball of flame. Several Eternal Realm experts who couldn't dodge in time were burnt to ashes. Yi Shiwen fixed his eyes on the person. Who else could it be other than Jin Yuan? Although he had been taught a lesson by Yi Shiwen before, he also understood how terrifying Yi Shiwen was. In this direction, there would certainly be no peerless experts left to compete with Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was too strong. In this case, it gave him a chance to not compete with others because Yi Shiwen could only pick one heavenly fire fruit at most. There were 2 left. With no other peerless experts competing, how could anyone be a match for him? He easily snatched one heavenly fire fruit. His entire person looked like a sun god. At this time, he finally found some confidence. Sure enough, this was the normal situation. He should be invincible. The reason why he had been taught a lesson by Yi Shiwen before was not because he was too weak, but because Yi Shiwen was too abnormal. The remaining heavenly fire fruit triggered a bloody battle. Many people fought a cruel battle. This was their last chance. Basically, all the experts from all sides were fighting, but no one could truly suppress Yi Shiwen. At this time, a huge figure descended from the sky and swallowed the heavenly fire fruit. It was none other than the winged serpent. However, the winged serpent's body was covered with wounds. Some of the wounds were so deep that bones could be seen, and blood was constantly dripping from them. He had been competing elsewhere, but in the end, he was no match for Yi Shiwen and had been seriously injured. Now, he had no choice but to come here to compete for the last heavenly fire fruit. It was also because of Yi Shiwen's presence that there were no more peerless experts here. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated by now. This was all thanks to Yi Shiwen's outstanding strength. Chapter 2454. The person who had beaten up the winged serpent was none other than the young Fire Emperor. The young Fire Emperor was determined to get his hands on the heavenly fire fruit. Corpses littered the ground. In the end, he met the strongest opponent, which was the winged serpent. The two of them engaged in a shocking battle. Both sides were powerful figures. Neither of them were ordinary people. It was difficult to end the battle easily. In the end, the young Fire Emperor defeated the winged serpent. He almost roasted the winged serpent. The winged serpent, who had been seriously injured, could only return to fight for the remaining heavenly fire fruit. The others didn't want to get into a conflict with Yi Shiwen. After all, they only wanted to obtain the heavenly fire fruit. Everything else was secondary to them. And all of this fell into Yi Shiwen's eyes. He had no one to compete with him, so he ended it the fastest. His eyes and ears were alert, and everything fell into his eyes. Apart from the fight here, the fights in other places had reached a climax. The faster ones had already reached the end, but the others had only just begun. The young Fire Emperor had just defeated Lei Yi and snatched a heavenly fire fruit. However, just as he snatched a heavenly fire fruit, he was enraged. A bolt of lightning had appeared and snatched a heavenly fire fruit. Those who block me shall die. This ball of lightning struck and killed several imperishable realm experts in succession. It swallowed them all in one gulp, revealing its true form. Who else could it be but the Thunder Qilin? Thunder Kirin had been watching from the side, waiting for the best opportunity to appear. In order to snatch the heavenly fire fruit, he had even suppressed his anger towards Yi Shiwen. There were too many experts present. Although he was strong, he could not defeat everyone. During this period of time, he had angered everyone. There were many who wanted to kill Thunder Kirin and eat his godly shell. Hence, he did not dare to show himself. He could only snatch a heavenly fire fruit at a critical moment. You are courting death, you beast. You finally dare to show yourself. The young Fire Emperor saw Thunder Kirin and went crazy. So many people from the Fire Tribe were missing. It was suspected that they had been swallowed by Thunder Kirin. How could he let this matter rest? The Thunder Kirin transformed into a ball of lightning and didn't dare to stay any longer. He didn't want to be caught by these powerful beings. As for the little Fire Emperor, he transformed into a ball of flames and chased after the Thunder Kirin. His speed was extremely fast as he chased after them. In just a blink of an eye, they had left the Woodwood realm. Yi Shiwen also saw Chen Tung Kong soar into the sky and snatch a heavenly fire fruit apart from the battles of the young Fire Emperor, the Wind Spirit, and the others. Yi Shiwen and the others had snatched away the 6 heavenly fire fruits. However, the remaining 24 heavenly fire fruits had fallen into the hands of those peerless experts. Only a few heavenly fire fruits remained, and they were the targets of the other experts. Therefore, everyone was fighting over these few heavenly fire fruits. Yi Shiwen's eyes were looking in all directions, and his ears were listening in all directions, but his eyes weren't focused on them. He had been waiting. Qin Lai had also subdued the heavenly fire fruit and started observing. There were a few others who were doing the same. Although the heavenly fire fruit was important, it was not the most important thing. They were all waiting for the Sui fire essence to show up. Almost all of the heavenly fire fruits had been snatched away, but the Sui fire essence had yet to show up. The Sui fire essence was formed from the heavenly fire fruit, and it had gained sentience. Therefore, the heavenly fire fruit was very important to the Sui fire essence. If the Sui fire fruit could devour another heavenly fire fruit, it would be able to improve its power to an unimaginable level. Every heavenly fire fruit was formed from the energy of the Sui wood. Only 30 heavenly fire fruits could be produced in tens of thousands of years. Therefore, they were extremely precious. Once the heavenly fire fruit transformed into the Sui fire essence, it would instantly become a powerful existence above the Tao realm. The more time passed, the more energy it refined, and the stronger it would become. If it could refine a few more heavenly fire fruits, it might even be able to form another Sui wood body. To a certain extent, the heavenly fire fruit was one of the seeds of the Sui wood. Therefore, there was a high chance that the Sui fire essence would appear and steal the heaven fire fruits. In fact, this was not the first time that something like this had happened. The sway fire essence that kept appearing was already at the critical moment of its transformation. Once it completed its transformation, it would grow to an unimaginable level. Qin Lai wanted to snatch the sway fire essence and devour its energy to improve his cultivation to an unimaginable level. He might even be able to kill his way into the ranks of the Almighty of the Sage Realm. It was not just one or two people who had this idea. Many people knew about it. Therefore, there were many people who had this idea. Wind Spirit, Chen Tinkong, and the others were also waiting. Later, I will help you block everyone. You use all your strength to capture the sway fire essence. Yi Shiwen said to Qin Lai through telepathy. Yes. Qin Lai nodded. Don't worry. Although we are not strong enough yet, we can still help you block one of them. Don't worry. Ao Yin and the others said. They had complete confidence in themselves. Although they were no match for Chun Tinkong and the others, it was not a problem to block them. It's out. The sway fire essence is out. At that moment, a ball of fire leaped out from the sway wood and turned into a human figure. It reached out towards the sky fire fruit. It was a human figure of fire, exuding extreme flames and an extremely dangerous aura. Everyone's eyes lit up. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The sway fire essence is mine. Sui Qing was the first to make a move. He had come for the sway fire essence. Now that the young fire emperor had left, Sui Qing was the one who needed the sway fire essence the most. He reached out his hand and turned it into a huge hand, grabbing at the fire essence. The sway fire essence seemed to have expected that someone would take advantage of the situation to grab it. It turned into a ball of fire and disappeared. It regrouped in another direction and appeared right in front of the sky fire fruit. In an instant, he grabbed the heavenly fire fruit and absorbed it into his body. Then, it tried to return to the sway wood at lightning speed. Only the sway wood was the safest place to be, where no one could catch it. Stay here. Chen Tinkong also made his move, grabbing towards the sky fire fruit. Other than Chen Tinkong, Wind Spirit, Lei Yi, and the others also made their moves. Yi Shiwen was no exception. He instantly attacked. Everyone had the same goal at this moment. They wanted to cut off the sway fire essence's escape route first. Chapter 2455. Any one of them could pose a great threat to the sway fire essence, let alone so many of them attacking at the same time. Immediately, the sky and the earth were covered, blocking the sway fire essence's escape route. Every one of them possessed extraordinary skills, and when they all grabbed towards the sway fire essence, they covered the sky and covered the earth, making them look like a mighty army. Bang! The sway fire essence let out a miserable shriek and was instantly sent flying by Chen Tinkong's slap. Chen Tinkong's attack did not do much to the sway fire essence, but it was followed by another group of people that blocked its path. Boom! The sway fire essence was sent flying and landed on the ground, creating a huge pit. Now! Qin Lai, hurry up and do it. I will stop them. Yi Shiwen transmitted his voice to Qin Lai. Without any hesitation, Qin Lai took a big stride forward, stepped on a green lotus, and grabbed at the fire essence. Courting death! Sui Qing was enraged. Someone dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, and he was not even in the eternal realm. A ball of flame lashed towards Qin Lai like a long whip. You'll have to get through me first. Qin Lai stretched out his hand and crushed the ball of flames. A figure appeared in front of Qin Lai. It was none other than Yi Shiwen. Sui Qing's facial expression turned ugly. He had been trying his best to avoid a conflict with Yi Shiwen, but in the end, a huge conflict was inevitable. There were 30 heavenly fire fruits, so he could choose not to compete for them. However, there was only one sway fire essence in front of him, so he could not give it up. Yi Shiwen, don't tell me that you plan to block all of us just for him? Jin Yuan shouted in a loud voice. He wasn't afraid, since everyone was present at this time. So what? Yi Shiwen said indifferently. Everyone's face turned ugly. Yi Shiwen was clearly looking down on them. Seeing that Qin Lai had already started to refine the sway fire essence, everyone started to panic. Let's see how you are going to stop me. Lei Yi roared and took the lead. They were only afraid of Yi Shiwen, but that did not mean that they were afraid of him. With the teleportation, countless lightning talismans covered his body, and he grabbed at Qin Lai. His speed was extremely fast. It was like a flash of lightning. Just as he was about to succeed, and a smile of success appeared on his face, a figure descended from the sky. The figure's right hand turned into a seal, turning into an archaic divine mountain in the sky and grabbing down. "I don't believe you can hurt me." It was already too late for Lei Yi to react. He didn't even have the time to think about how Yi Shiwen had arrived so quickly. However, he didn't want to give up, so he simply chose to resist. Every pore on his body was spurting out the power of thunder. This power of thunder transformed into a kind of rune and formed a thunder armor on his body. Lightning was the most powerful offensive method, and now was also the most powerful divine ability for defense. Bang! Yi Shiwen's archaic sacred mountain directly fell on Lei Yi's body, instantly smashing his thunder armor into pieces. The seemingly mighty thunder armor simply couldn't block Yi Shiwen's Han seal and instantly smashed down. Lei Yi let out a muffled groan. His whole body was smashed into a bloody mess by Yi Shiwen. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He forcibly resisted Yi Shiwen's attack and was directly hit on his back. He was already prepared to be seriously injured, but he still underestimated Yi Shiwen's means. He was seriously injured, but he still couldn't get the Sui fire essence. This was a double loss. We have to work together. Otherwise, we won't have a share of the Sui fire essence. At this time, Jin Yuan said. His eyes were filled with even more fear towards Yi Shiwen. Lei Yi couldn't even withstand a single attack. Although he deliberately took the attack head-on, it still showed how terrifying Yi Shiwen was. Yes, this guy is a bit too arrogant. We must completely suppress him. Winged Serpent's pair of snake eyes stared at Yi Shiwen. He wanted the Sui fire essence, but he was afraid of being killed by Yi Shiwen. So, he could only choose to drag someone else along. Good, I want to see what kind of ability this outsider has to dare to go against all of us. Wind Spirit stepped forward and said coldly. His eyes were filled with coldness. He was also a supreme hero. How could he be willing to be under someone else? Swoosh! Chen Tinkong took the lead and attacked Yi Shiwen with his sword. Yi Shiwen, let us give you a hand. At this time, Ao Yin and Monk Huijin jointly released a formation. It was the Yin and Yang formation. It was a very powerful formation, but it was widely spread. However, many people had different levels of formation. Obviously, the Yin and Yang formation that the two of them had released was a very advanced formation. You are courting death, Chen Tinkong shouted coldly, and the sword light fell on the spot. Bang! With a loud sound, the sword seal fiercely smashed on the Yin and Yang formation, forming a violent ripple. A huge light wrapped with endless energy instantly exploded on the spot. Puff! Both of them spat out a mouthful of blood. Although the two of them were considered invincible among the immortal levels, they were facing Chen Tinkong, who was almost a hero among the immortal levels. There was a whole realm difference between them. So how could they resist? The Yin and Yang formation also shook violently, but it did not break in the end. The two of them were only at the peak of the immortal level, but they managed to resist Chen Tinkong's attack with the Yin and Yang formation. The formation was indeed very advanced. Unfortunately, Ao Yin and Monk Huijin's skills were much weaker than Chen Tinkong's. Immovable mountain. Monk Huijin shouted and increased the input of his magic power, stabilizing the Yin and Yang formation. On the other side, Yi Shukong and Qin Shuang could not help but step forward and say, "Let us help you." The four of them worked together and finally completely stabilized the Yin and Yang formation. Everyone looked at the four of them with some fear in their eyes. The four of them were not ordinary people. It was just that they had not cultivated for a long time. If they were given some time, they would definitely become one of them in the future. The foundation of a martial arts sect was indeed terrifying. It was not easy to have so many outstanding talents among the younger generation. Damn it! Seeing that his attack was finally blocked, Chen Tinkong's face turned pale. He had been unlucky recently. First, he was taught a lesson by Yi Shiwen. Now he could not even teach the younger generation a lesson. He was furious. "Get out of here, or else don't blame me for being rude." Yi Shiwen waved his hand, and the Tianyuan mirror flew out of his body. It shrouded everyone, including Qin Lai, who was in the midst of subduing the Sui fire essence. Only then he could fight with all his might. "Damn it, these people are so annoying." Wind Spirit shouted and spat out a mouthful of origin energy. It instantly turned into a terrifying storm giant. It was his special physique. However, Yi Shiwen's speed was even faster. He made the first move and instantly rushed to the front of Wind Spirit. He blasted out a punch and directly transformed into a world, suppressing all directions and destroying all eternity. Everyone could see that the power of the mortal world leaked out from that world and was born in circles, shattering the sky. Wind Spirit was instantly shocked. All the pores on his body were tightly shut. He felt as if he was being targeted by a ferocious beast. "You want to kill me? Yi Shiwen, go to hell." Wind Spirit's body suddenly erupted with an amazing power. A long blade condensed from the law of wind appeared in his hand. He fiercely slashed down, intending to confront Yi Shiwen head-on. This was his method. He was the spirit of the wind. The law weapon condensed by him was much more powerful than any divine tool. Boom! The wind blade fiercely slashed into that world, shattering the civilization that had just been born in that world. However, more of the world's power passed through the wind blade and directly suppressed Wind Spirit. Wind Spirit retreated again and again. His body was about to explode. Blood spurted out. The power of Yi Shiwen's punch was too terrifying. Wind Spirit roared unwillingly, but it was useless. Yi Shiwen's world suppressed him too quickly and directly blasted him away. Puff! He spurted out a mouthful of blood. He was not Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. He clearly saw that Yi Shiwen had integrated with the Fist Incarnation. His strength had suddenly increased a lot. No wonder even he was not Yi Shiwen's opponent. So strong. This Yi Shiwen is so terrifying. He is much more terrifying than the rumors. Originally, it was rumored that he could fight against 3 peerless figures. I only thought it was a rumor. Now that I have seen it with my own eyes, it is indeed true. He is even more terrifying and powerful than the rumors. Jinyuan Lei Yi, Serpent Wing, and the others saw this scene and immediately understood how terrifying Yi Shiwen was. At this time, they did not care about their pride and so on. All of them joined forces and burst out the strongest attack towards Yi Shiwen. Any one of these people was a peerless character. They usually acted alone. Most of them were hostile to each other when they met each other. They had never joined hands. But now, they had joined hands to deal with Yi Shiwen. In an instant, the world collapsed and chaos overflowed. In an instant, the laws were rearranged and turned into weapons that blasted towards Yi Shiwen. "You want to defeat me with these? Impossible." Yi Shiwen fused with another Saber Dao incarnation, and the strength of his body erupted once again. A long saber condensed from the laws appeared in his hand. It was the Flaming Saber. The flames were all Nanmingli fire, and it was extremely terrifying. Yi Shiwen's Dao was equivalent to upgrading several martial Dao at the same time. It was very difficult to upgrade. Compared to ordinary geniuses, it was more difficult. But once it was truly mastered, it would be difficult to meet a match in the same level. This could be said to have its advantages and disadvantages. The long saber in his hand directly slashed down, facing the attacks of the various experts. Rumble! A series of fierce collisions occurred. The saber light and the torrent collided. It was extremely terrifying. Bang! There was a loud roar. The saber light cut everything and shattered everything. The saber light did not lose its momentum and slashed towards these people. The first to bear the brunt was that Serpent Wing. Chapter 2456. The blazing saber swept across the area with a Nanmingli fire, burning everything in its path. No one could stop it. Bang! Winged Serpent didn't manage to block it and was sent flying away. He was almost cut in half by the blazing saber. Yi Shiwen's blazing saber contained a terrifying saber intent that could cut the world in half. No one dared to step forward anymore. They stared at Yi Shiwen cautiously. Although they knew that Yi Shiwen's martial arts incarnation couldn't be maintained for long, it was still shocking enough. They didn't want to fight with Yi Shiwen here. Both sides would be injured, and they wouldn't know who would benefit from it in the end. Winged Serpent was constantly roaring, but he didn't dare to act rashly. Yi Shiwen's blade was too amazing. It had startled him. At this time, Yi Shiwen's imposing aura was flourishing, and he didn't want to step forward and become someone else's cannon fodder. "You go first," Yi Shiwen said to Qin Lai. Although Qin Lai hadn't completely subdued the fire essence, he had already gained some control over it. He didn't dare to stay any longer. Any one of these fire essences could inflict serious damage on them. They didn't have Yi Shiwen's strength, so they didn't dare to act recklessly. Yi Shiwen heaved a sigh of relief when Qin Lai and the others left. They probably couldn't catch up to him. However, not long after Qin Lai left, a true change occurred. A heavenly fire fruit that was still being fought over suddenly tore through the sky and grabbed at the heavenly fire fruit. Everyone was stunned. There was another fire essence? Sway Fire Spirit. There's another Sway Fire Spirit? Everyone was stunned. None of them had ever thought that there would be another Sway Fire Essence. In other words, there were always two or more Sway Fire Essences in the Sway Wood. Because the fire essences all looked the same, they couldn't tell the difference between them. Moreover, the heavenly fire fruit only matured once every 10,000 years. Every group of people was different, so how could they know that there were other fire essences? This was the first time, or rather, it was completely different from the information they had gathered. Everyone was shocked and excited at the same time. The previous Sual fire essence had already been captured by Qin Lai, and with Yi Shiwen keeping an eye on them, they shouldn't have any more chances. However, this Sual fire essence was different. Without the help of others, how could Yi Shiwen possibly snatch another Sual fire essence from them? If that was the case, the uncle could tolerate it, but the aunt couldn't. "You want to leave?" Lei Yi was the first to react. He had been recovering on the side. He had been severely injured by Yi Shiwen just now. Now, he had almost recovered to a certain extent. Endless lightning bolts rumbled in the sky, turning into a lightning dragon that pierced through the void and revealed the Sway fire essence. Then, the lightning dragon coiled around the Sual fire essence, trying to capture it first. Such a huge Sway fire essence. Yi Shiwen was a little surprised. It was bigger than he had imagined. If the Sway fire essence that Qin Lai had captured was as tall as a human, then this Sway fire essence was as big as a small hill. It was as big as a normal person who had released his Dharma world. How long had this Sual fire essence lived? It was hard to imagine how many heavenly fire fruits it had snatched, and it might even have devoured some Sual fire essence. This Sual fire essence was showing signs of turning into wood, and it seemed like it was about to turn into a Suwood. Compared to this one, the previous fire essence was like a child in the presence of an adult. Roar! The Sual fire essence roared, and the flames on its body burned fiercely, burning the lightning dragon into ashes. Clearly, this Sual fire essence was much stronger than the previous one. "Don't go! Stay here! I'm going to be rich! Ha ha ha!" Many of the Sual fire essences instantly forgot about the unpleasantness from before. That little Sual fire essence was nothing compared to this Sual fire essence in front of them. However, this Sual fire essence was obviously much stronger, and the attacks from these Sual fire essences could do nothing to it. In just a few moments, it had rushed into the Sual wood, and before it left, it even sneered at the crowd in a mocking manner. "You want to leave? Where do you think you're going?" Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. He took a step forward and rushed inside. "Is he crazy?" Everyone was stunned. They stared at Yi Shiwen, who had rushed into the Sual wood, and they felt like their heads were about to explode. Why did it feel like there was something wrong with his head? Everyone knew that the Sual wood was the guardian tree of the human race, and everyone knew how terrifyingly hot it was. Even the gods couldn't survive in the Sual wood, unless they were conferred monarch-level experts. It was said that there were many monarch and imperial emperors among the human race who had attained Tao under the Sual wood, and the Sual sovereign even achieved Tao under the Sual wood. Even the creatures born in the Sual wood realm didn't dare to come close to the Sual wood. Only the Sual fire essences that were born from the Sual would dare to live on it. Therefore, everyone was dumbfounded when they saw the Sual fire essence rushing into the Suawood. In their hearts, they had already sentenced Yi Shiwen to death. The crowd looked at each other and quickly dispersed. The ripening of the heavenly fire fruits meant that the Sualwood realm was going to close soon. If they didn't leave now, it would be 10,000 years later before they could leave again. Soon, the heavenly fire fruits were divided among the remaining people. Soon, everyone left the place. Although there were still people who wanted to see what would happen to Yi Shiwen, they all quickened their steps when they heard Yi Shiwen's screams. This madman had gone mad. But if they turned around and took a look, they would be completely stunned. That was because Yi Shiwen was screaming incessantly and had turned into a burning man. However, he was still alive and kicking. Yi Shiwen formed an armor with the power of thunder, but it was quickly burned away by the flames of the Sualwood. Even though the flames didn't penetrate his armor, the high temperature was enough to roast him. Every minute, there were cells that were roasted to death, but the Phoenix regeneration art was able to regenerate more cells. But even so, he couldn't last more than a quarter of an hour. At most, he would only last for a quarter of an hour before his arcane energy would be exhausted and he would be burned to death. Under such a terrifying consumption of arcane energy, even the Phoenix regeneration art wouldn't be able to help him. Enduring the pain, he strode forward and chased after the Sway fire essence. Take him down! He could feel that all the muscles in his body were being torn apart. It was a terrifying consumption of arcane energy. The Sual fire essence was enraged when it saw Yi Shiwen daring to chase after it. There were so many people chasing after it. It was fine if it ran away, but there were still people who dared to chase after it. The Sual fire essence immediately turned around and spat out endless flames towards Yi Shiwen, wanting to burn him to death. Yi Shiwen didn't seem to be able to escape. He was completely submerged by the torrent of flames. Roar! The Sual fire essence showed a ferocious smile on its face and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. It wanted to swallow this damn guy who dared to challenge its dignity. Suddenly, a sword chi soared into the sky. It had boundless power and an atmosphere that dominated everything. The sword chi rushed out of the flames and pierced through the Sual fire essence. This sword chi was so terrifying that it instantly exploded half of the Sual fire essence's body and severely injured it. The Sual fire essence had a horrifying expression on its face. It turned around and was about to run away, but Yi Shiwen had already rushed out of the flames and shouted, "You want to leave?" "No way." He used Tianyuan mirror and shot out a mass of blood-red light. The blood-red light turned into a chain and grabbed the Sual fire essence in a Tianyuan mirror. Rumble! Just when Yi Shiwen used Tianyuan mirror, the Sualwood essence that was lying dormant suddenly began to shake as if it was awakening. Shit! Yi Shiwen cursed in his heart. The Sualwood essence was the divine tree that protected the human race, but the Tianyuan mirror in his hand was a demonic weapon, the Devil King's weapon. Could it have alerted the Sualwood essence? With this thought in mind, Yi Shiwen didn't dare to stay any longer. He took a big stride forward and spread out the light wings on his back. In just a few moments, he was already out of the range of the Sualwood essence. Huh? What's going on? Why did Master Sualwood wake up? In the Sway Emperor City, an old man wearing animal skin suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the direction of the Sualwood essence. Could it be that someone from another race has broken into the city? Forget it. If that's the case, then he's just unlucky for not knowing how terrifying Master Sualwood is. After that, he closed his eyes again and stopped moving. No one knew how long he had been in this position. It could be 10,000 years, or even 100,000 years. Damn, I almost got into big trouble. In the end, Yi Shiwen managed to escape from the Swaywood essence a little earlier than the Swaywood essence, but he was still in a state of shock. It was not because of the risk of getting close to the Sualwood essence, but because the Tianyuan mirror seemed to have triggered the awakening of the Sualwood essence. It was said that this divine tree had been sleeping for hundreds of thousands of years. The last time it woke up was when the great Qin Emperor came to visit in person. It could be said that it had a very long history. Others might not know, But Yi Shiwen knew very well about the relationship between the Tianyuan mirror and the demon race. Fortunately, he escaped in time, or else something bad would have happened to him. He returned to the Sui Emperor city and found Qin Lai and the others according to the prearranged secret code. However, they were not in good condition. After they escaped, although it looked like they were being watched by Yi Shiwen, in reality, there were still a few of them who sent out their incarnations to chase after them. They fought a bloody battle all the way back to the Sui sovereign city, and only then did they give up on chasing after them. Chapter 2457. If Yi Shiwen hadn't returned, they wouldn't have come out. Are you okay? Now everyone on the street is talking about you running into the wood. Ao Yin looked up and down at Yi Shiwen and said, I'm fine, it's not as serious as they say. Yi Shiwen shook his head and said, he didn't want to talk about the details because there were too many things that he couldn't say. Even if it was a huge fire essence, he didn't want anyone to know about it. In the end, he still managed to catch it. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to capture the fire essence in 15 minutes. Therefore, no one suspected that Yang Qi had taken advantage of the fire essence's carelessness and used the Sovereign Lord's sword to injure the fire essence. Of course, the entire process was extremely dangerous. If the fire essence hadn't been careless, Yang Qi's plan would have failed. Therefore, Yi Shiwen's success this time was partly due to his good luck. However, the risk was worth it. That fire essence was much bigger than the one Qin Lai had. It was almost matured and was in the midst of evolving. If Yi Shiwen could devour this fire essence, even if he didn't specialize in the law of fire, it would still benefit him immensely. His Nanmingli fire would probably reach the grand completion level in an instant. However, Yi Shiwen didn't plan to devour the fire essence as there was no need for it. He planned to save it for when he was in a difficult situation. At that time, it would be a great help. As long as you're fine. Inside the house, Qin Lai, who was in closed-door cultivation, had also walked out. He had just recovered from most of his injuries. Along the way, he had been chased by the pursuers, and after obtaining the Sui fire essence, he had become the focus of everyone's attention. All the attacks were aimed at him, which was why his injuries were the most severe. But now he had mostly recovered. On the surface, he didn't look any different. Yi Shiwen, it's all thanks to you this time. Without your help, I wouldn't have been able to get the fire essence. Qin Lai said gratefully. If it wasn't for Yi Shiwen, with his current strength, it would be impossible for him to snatch away the Sui fire essence under the watchful eyes of so many peerless geniuses. I owe you a favor today. Fortunately, you're fine. Otherwise, I would feel guilty for the rest of my life. It's nothing, it's just a piece of cake, but I do have something to trouble you with. Yi Shiwen asked, just tell me what you need. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Qin Lai quickly said, I want to ask, in the heavenly realm, is there a famous genius doctor? Yi Shiwen asked, don't tell me you left some hidden injuries? Qin Lai said and looked at Yi Shiwen in a strange manner. There was naturally no need to mention how powerful the divine shell of a god was, especially after cultivating to the undying realm. As long as a single cell remained, they could be reborn. Although their vitality would be greatly damaged, this kind of recovery ability could be said to be world-shaking. What kind of injury couldn't the godly shell recover by itself? Generally speaking, it was nothing more than a Tao injury or a curse that could not heal itself that stumped the gods. They had no choice but to find a divine doctor who specialized in this area to treat it. Not me, it's Yi Qianqian, Yi Shiwen said. Isn't Yi Qianqian dead? Yi Shukong said. He later also heard about Yi Shiwen killing the Death Lord. Since Yi Qianqian had been taken over by the Death Lord, in his opinion, she must be dead. No, she's not dead, but she's almost there. If I hadn't fixed her spirit, I'm afraid she would have died. Yi Shiwen said with a dignified expression. Yi Shiwen introduced Yi Qianqian's situation in detail, and everyone's expression also became dignified. The cells of the gods had infinite vitality, and it was difficult to die even if they wanted to. Ordinary things could not move the gods at all, and they would recover in the blink of an eye. However, when it came to life and death, it was bound to be a huge problem. This was tricky. Everyone was not very good at medicine, and even Yi Shiwen was helpless, let alone them. When it comes to medical skills, as far as I know, the Shinong Valley's Jiang family is the best. Yi Shiwen said. Shinong Valley? Could it be the Earth Emperor Shinong? Yi Shiwen asked with a flash of inspiration. Among the several emperors of the human race, Shinong was also one of the famous ones, ranked second among the three emperors. The legend of Shinong tasting hundreds of herbs was a rumor among the heavens of the human race. More importantly, it was said that Shinong had also given pointers to the Saint Emperor Xuanyuan's cultivation and could be regarded as half a teacher. Therefore, the Ji family and the Jiang family were considered to have a good relationship for generations. Yes, it is the Earth Emperor Shinong. The Earth Emperor's surname is Jiang, and Shinong is just an honorific title. The Jiang family is the descendant of the Earth Emperor, but the Jiang family does not go to the Heaven Realm all year round, and the Heaven Realm does not know much about them. They stay in the ancestral land of Shinong Valley all year round to cultivate. Qin Lai explained. There are many divine doctors in Shinong Valley, and as far as I know, the most skilled one is the Dr. King, who has the ability to bring the dead back to life. Yi Qianqian's condition is difficult to be treated by ordinary divine doctors. If you let some quacks treat her casually, it may cause problems. If you want to find someone, find the best. But as far as I know, the Dr. King has not seen anyone for many years. It is not easy for the Jiang family to meet him, let alone us. Monk Huijin frowned and said as he thought of the Dr. King, "We only have one way." The Dr. King and the Dr. King have been good friends for many years. Let's go back and find the Dr. King with his name card. It should be possible, Qin Lai said. The Dr. King has always been impressed by you. I think he will agree to this request. This was the safest way. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go now. Yi Shiwen could not wait any longer. Every second that passed, the regret in his heart increased. If it was not because of the decision he made, Yi Qianqian would not have fallen into such a dangerous situation. With a human life at stake, they did not stay any longer and quickly returned to the Heaven Realm. When they arrived at the Heaven World, they parted ways with Yi Shiwen. All of them had gained a lot this time, especially Qin Lai, who had obtained the Heaven Fire Fruit and the Suo Fire Essence, which were enough for him to digest for a long time. Under the guidance of Qin Lai, Yi Shiwen found a drunk old beggar in a remote corner of a small city. After waiting for the old beggar to wake up, Yi Shiwen quickly told him the whole story from beginning to end. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that the Death Lord, that old bastard, is still alive. You are lucky to have survived the battle with her. You should know that when she became famous in the world, I had just reached the Tao realm. The old beggar sighed and said, I also know about that battle. A human king of our human race also died in the encirclement. It was incomparably ferocious. If you hadn't coincidentally met her, we wouldn't have known that she still had a remnant soul. If she had continued to grow stronger, it wouldn't have been impossible for her to reproduce the undead disaster. You've made a great contribution this time. The old beggar, am only doing this for you. It's not a big deal. However, that old guy hasn't come out for many years. Even if I go there, I'm not completely sure that I can invite that old guy out. Senior, I am very grateful that you are willing to help me. Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and said, All right, let's go immediately. Saving people is like putting out a fire. There is no time to waste, the old beggar said. Under the guidance of the old beggar, the two quickly returned to the ancestors' land. This time, the old beggar used his full strength. He almost tore the space apart and reached the ancestors' land in less than half a day. He even crossed more than half of the ancestors' land and arrived at a valley. The whole valley was locked in a dense fog. Obviously, it was stabilized by a matrix. Senior, is Shinong Valley here? Yi Shiwen asked in a strange tone. Of course not. This is the place where that old bastard lives in seclusion. The old beggar said, Old bastard, your old friend is here, come out. You old bastard, why don't you come in yourself? Don't you know the way? An old voice came from inside. Let's go. The old beggar took Yi Shiwen directly into the dense fog. The Zhen method seemed to be manipulated and directly dispersed along the way. The two of them entered the valley very smoothly. After entering the valley, Yi Shiwen discovered that this was actually another microcosm. The entire valley was very large. It was far from being as small as it looked from the outside. Obviously, a space matrix was used. The whole valley was crowded with all kinds of medicinal herbs. Yi Shiwen's eyes were fixed on them. Many medicinal herbs that were rarely seen in the outside world could actually be seen here. Yi Shiwen just glanced over and saw several 10,000-year-old blood ginseng. Moreover, they were exuding amazing medicinal efficacy. They were several times stronger than wild medicinal herbs of similar age. Damn, this is a treasure trove. Yi Shiwen could not help but swallow his saliva. Even if he had always been a spendthrift, when he saw this huge herbal field, he could not help but take a deep breath. If all of this fell into his hands, he would immediately become rich. It was simply immeasurable wealth. Of course, that old bastard has been living here for 100,000 years. With that old bastard's means, it is not surprising that he has cultivated these medicinal herbs. You don't come here for no reason. What are you doing here? In the herbal field, an old man dressed like an old farmer was carefully handling a holy medicine. Yi Shiwen looked over and saw that it was actually an unknown medicinal orchid. It was at least 100,000 years old. Its value was simply unimaginable in the outside world. I naturally came to find you to save someone. What else could it be for? The old beggar said. Chapter 2458. This old man who looked like an old farmer turned his head and looked at the old beggar and Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen could clearly see that this old man was completely different from the old beggar who looked dirty but had a ruddy complexion. When the Dr. King looked at him, he completely looked like an old farmer who tended to medicinal herbs. His essence was restrained, and there was nothing special about him. However, Yi Shiwen knew that the most extraordinary thing about him was that there was nothing extraordinary about him. After all, how could a person who was honored as the Dr. King be like an old farmer? Both of you look very healthy. Who needs my help? The physician king glanced at the two of them. In a flash, Yi Shiwen had a feeling that he was being seen through. You tell him yourself. The old beggar opened his wine gourd, took a sip, and said, Senior, it's like this. Yi Shiwen told the physician king everything about Yi Qianqian. So that's how it is? That old witch still has a remnant soul in this world. The physician king said indifferently, I haven't made a move for many years. If the old beggar didn't bring you here, I wouldn't even see you. Forget it, if I don't agree, he will really destroy my herbal garden. It's good that you know. This young man killed the last bit of the Death Lord's primordial spirit, so he should have made a great contribution. If you don't save him, I'll tear down your stupid herb garden. The old beggar said matter-of-factly. He looked like a complete fool. You old man, after so many years, you still haven't changed a bit. The physician king had a helpless expression on his face. Forget it, bring her here, and let me see her first. Yi Shiwen heard this and quickly carried Yi Qianqian out of the Tianyuan mirror. Her eyes were tightly closed, and it seemed as if she was completely asleep. However, Yi Qianqian had just left the Thunder Liquid Lake when the death energy began to corrode her body again. The physician king couldn't help but frown when he saw this situation. With the divine shell of the gods, ordinary injuries could be healed in a short period of time. When it came time to seek medical advice, it would often be a variety of difficult and complicated diseases that even the gods would be helpless against. One could imagine how troublesome it was. He didn't know how many difficult and complicated diseases he had treated in his life, but Yi Qianqian's situation was indeed unprecedentedly tricky. This is very troublesome, the physician king said. I can use my golden needles to stop the spreading death energy in her body, but the problem is that there are too many parts of her primordial spirit that have already fused with that old witch, the Lord of Death. They can almost be considered as one. You killed the old witch's soul, so her soul would naturally collapse. If you didn't find a rare treasure like the enlightening mind ancient tree, her soul would have already collapsed. Yi Shiwen's mood became gloomier with every sentence the Dr. King spoke. Along the way, He had learned from the old beggar that the Dr. King's medical skills might not be top-notch, but it could be said that he was one of the strongest people in the world. If even the Dr. King couldn't do anything, then finding someone else wouldn't have much of an effect. What's more, these people were all king-ranked formidable martial artists. They were not people that a mere imperishable realm martial artist like him could meet. If not for the old beggar personally leading the way, Jiang, you would not even know where the physician king's door was. Old man, you've talked so much. I'll just ask you one question. Do you have any ideas? The old beggar said impatiently. The power of death is very troublesome. It has already taken root in her body. If she wants to get rid of it, she will have to wake up and refine it herself. At that time, it might not be a big deal. It might even be a great fortune. Although that old witch is a lunatic, there is no doubt about her cultivation. Even if she can only refine a small part of it, her cultivation will still soar. The physician king said calmly, not affected by the old beggar's words at all. But the real problem is that her primordial spirit has almost collapsed. She has been forcibly merged with that old witch. Sooner or later, she will be completely devoured. If you act a little later, she will be completely hopeless. Fortunately, you have your enlightening mind ancient tree to stabilize her primordial spirit. But this is the only way. If you want to truly cure her, it is not that there is no way, but you lack a main ingredient. Senior, please tell me. I will buy it even if I have to give everything I have. Yi Shiwen said. The physician king shook his head and said, I have most of the medicinal ingredients in this medicinal garden. If I had them, I would give them to you for the sake of the old beggar. However, if you want to cure her, you need the main ingredient. It is not something that can be bought in the outside world. I have only seen the record of it in the remnant pages of the Medicine Emperor that I once obtained. Please enlighten me, senior. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath, prepared his heart, and asked. This medicinal herb is called the reincarnation grass. It is a very peculiar medicinal herb. It has no other function except for one, to help the soul reincarnate. True reincarnation isn't the same as possession. This little girl's primordial spirit has almost collapsed. Even if she forcibly condenses it, there will be cracks. It will be very difficult to heal in the future. In fact, it might even affect her future cultivation. So, the only way is to reconstruct her primordial spirit and give her a new life. This little girl's primordial spirit will complete the transformation if she succeeds. Her future achievements will be limitless, said the physician king. Yi Shiwen was somewhat dejected. He had never heard of the reincarnation grass. He would steal and rob it if he had to. But the problem was that he had never heard of it. So, how could he obtain it? I don't know if Senior can tell me where I can find this reincarnation grass. Yi Shiwen asked in a somewhat despondent manner. That's right. Old man, aren't you just spouting a bunch of bullsh asterisk tea? What else is there to say if you can't save her? The old beggar said in support. Old man, why are you in such a hurry? Although this reincarnation grass is very difficult to find in the outside world, and even I have never seen it before, you can imagine how precious it is. But, according to the records on the Medicine Emperor's remnant page, the Medicine Emperor once picked this reincarnation grass on the Kurfürst Road, said the physician king. Kurfürst Road? Aren't you sending her to her death? The old beggar jumped up suddenly. Hearing these three words seemed to have magic power. The physician king also said helplessly, I have never seen it anywhere else except on the Kurfürst Road. Do you think I wanna? But there's no way. The old beggar looked at Yi Shiwen and said, This old man once traveled to the Chu Tian kingdom in his early years. He has entered many dangerous secret realms. He can be said to be very knowledgeable. If even he says that he has never seen it before, then I'm afraid it really doesn't exist. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath and asked with a firm look in his eyes, May I ask the two seniors, what kind of place is this Kurfürst Road? Although from the old beggar's words, he could more or less judge that the Kurfürst Road was also a very dangerous place. But what choice did he have? He had no other choice. This place is very dangerous, the old beggar said to Yi Shiwen with a rare, serious expression, because this road is known as the Emperor's Selection Road. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but suck in a mouthful of cold air. The Emperor King's Path Selection. Which one of the Emperor King's level characters wasn't unprecedented? There were even many rumors that pointed out that the Emperor level figure was actually on a different level of life from the gods. It was a completely different kind of life form. From the beginning of martial arts cultivation, along the way, each level was a kind of transformation. This transformation continued until the final transformation was completed after attaining the Tao and becoming a god. The gods and the ordinary gods were already on a different level of life form. According to the legend, the Emperor was a life form of a higher level than the gods. It was an unimaginable existence. Every single imperial monarch possessed great wisdom and perseverance, and they could be said to be unprecedented geniuses. Moreover, the birth of every single imperial monarch had a certain amount of karmic luck. Every single imperial monarch had many formidable competitors of the same generation, and in the end, very few were able to attain the Tao. This road actually dared to say that it was the Emperor Selection Road. This tone was unimaginably arrogant. You don't have to doubt it. Since ancient times, there were really a few emperors who obtained a big opportunity in it and finally achieved the Tao. Said the old beggar. What? There were really people? Yishuan couldn't help but be shocked. He thought it was just an exaggeration. He didn't expect it to be the truth. That's right, what the old beggar said is correct. Among them, the medicine sovereign seized first place and found the opportunity within. In the end, he obtained the Tao. He found the reincarnation grass when the Emperor's road was opened. The medicine king said, there were actually people who found the opportunity to become emperor. This was completely beyond Yi Shiwen's expectations. There is an opportunity to become emperor here. Could it be that there are many kings who go there? Asked Yi Shiwen. That's not it, said the old beggar. If people in the king realm can go in, I will risk my old bones to help you find the reincarnation grass. But it is not like this. The physician king nodded and said, on the Kurfürst road, only divine masters of the sage realm are allowed to enter. If king-ranked martial artists enter, they will be killed by the rules. Since ancient times, the only one who has dared to fight his way into the Kurfürst road with the strength of a king-ranked martial artist and find that sliver of opportunity is their martial arts sex ancestor, Emperor Qin. Yi Shiwen looked at the old beggar in shock. Just from what they said, he could tell that this was probably an extremely dangerous place. Naturally, not an ordinary person would dare to call himself Emperor Selection Road. Emperor Qin completely ignored the rules and counterattacked. This was too heaven-defying. The old beggar was a little helpless, but he also yearned for it. He said, we naturally can't guess the power of Emperor Qin. Since ancient times, many king realm powerhouses didn't believe it. In the end, only Emperor Qin came out alive. The two of us don't have the guts to try and see if we will be killed by the rules. But this is not the point. The point is that if you go in, you will almost certainly die. Chapter 2459. But that's not the point. The point is that if you go in, you'll almost certainly die. The old beggar said seriously. I'm not bluffing. It's the truth. The old beggar is right. If you go in with your current situation, you'll definitely die. The Kurfürst road is the only way that has been proven to be feasible and the most likely way to attain enlightenment. So you should be able to imagine how many people are eyeing this Kurfürst road. The physician king said, it can be said that since ancient times, the most powerful talents have been eyeing this Kurfürst road. Countless monstrous geniuses have dominated their generation. All the talents who are interested in attaining enlightenment are all gathered here. The old beggar and I used to be among them. Later, we felt that the chance of attaining enlightenment was too small, so we could only give up on this idea and break into the king realm. We are failures. Yi Shiwen was shocked. The miracle physician king. Any one of these titles alone would be an invincible existence with a great reputation. But in their own words, they were just failures on the Kurfürst road. The ones who chose to break into the king realm were actually failures. How many people would be shocked if they knew about this? Then how many monstrous people were mingling on the Kurfürst road? Since ancient times, no one knows when the Kurfürst road first opened, and no one knows how many times it has opened. Don't underestimate the various king sects. There are such people in every sect. In order to find such an opportunity, they would rather suppress their cultivation at the sage realm for hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years. Their foundation is unimaginably deep. As long as these people are willing, a large group of King Realm powerhouses can appear at any moment. In a sense, most of the King Realm powerhouses who are like the pillars of the major forces are failures. As long as they still have the hope of becoming emperor, they will not give up on this cursed road. The old beggar shook his head and said, "You can imagine that there are many peerless figures in every era. These people are all holding their breath to find the opportunity in the cursed road. Some have even entered it several times, or even dozens of times. It opens every 100,000 years. You can imagine how many people are waiting for this opportunity." Yi Shiwen was silent. Even if he was not very good at calculation, he knew very well what kind of concept it was. The cursed road had been opened so many times, and there were indeed a few people who became gods. Even if some people died miserably in it, it was completely unimaginable how many monsters there were after all these years. Gods lived forever, and it was meaningless to use time to measure them. Perhaps a random sage-playing god that they met along the way might be even older than the Qin Emperor. This was not impossible. It was truly a gathering of monsters from different races and eras. It was easy to imagine how difficult it was to win the championship and find that trace of fortuitous encounter. I'm not fighting for that trace of fortuitous encounter. I just want to find the reincarnation grass, Yi Shiwen said after a moment of silence. It was true that he was confident, but having confidence did not mean that he was arrogant. Facing those terrifying existences that had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years, he was still far from them. As long as you go in, there will be many dangers. There are even existences that can kill kings. Those people are really monsters. Don't use the eyes of ordinary people to measure them. I have high hopes for you, but you are not suitable for this opening. The next opening will be in another 100,000 years. With your aptitude, I believe that you are not inferior to those monsters. There is no need to be impatient. The old beggar shook his head and tried to persuade him. He had wandered in there before, so he knew how terrifying those monsters were. But you also have to think clearly. Even if this little girl is temporarily stabilized by my golden needles, she will definitely not be able to last until 100,000 years later. The physician king said slowly at the side, "Old man, what do you mean? Why are you tricking her to die?" The old beggar suddenly said angrily, "I'm not tricking her. No one can say for sure about this kind of thing." The physician king said slowly, "I'm just telling the truth. Otherwise, I won't have any objections if you can find the reincarnation grass in other places. Don't say any more. Two seniors, I have already decided. I will go." Yi Shiwen took a deep breath and said calmly. He might not be qualified to contend for hegemony in there, but he believed that there was still hope for him to find the reincarnation grass. It didn't matter how dangerous it was. "All right, if that's the case, then I will tell you the location of the reincarnation grass. This reincarnation grass is in the Cursed Road. It is in a medicinal garden. As for the specific location, the remnant page of the Medicine Emperor didn't specifically mention it. Everything depends on whether you can find it or not," the physician king said indifferently. "Old man, you're harming people. With his aptitude, he will grow to an astonishing level after 100,000 years. At that time, he will also be able to compete with those monsters. There is no need to be so anxious." The old beggar looked at the physician king fiercely and said, "Everything is not set in stone. After all, there is still more than 1,000 years, right?" The physician king said indifferently, "What you and I can't do, it doesn't mean that he can't do it." The old beggar was speechless. The key was that Yi Shiwen had already made his decision. He couldn't stop him even if he wanted to. "Senior, please perform the acupuncture." Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and said, "All right." With a wave of the physician king's hand, hundreds of golden needles fell from the sky and accurately pierced into Yi Qianqian's body. Just as the physician king had said, the power of death was easily stabilized. However, it was only stabilized. Yi Qianqian's life force was still slowly fading away. She would definitely not be able to hold on for another 100,000 years. Yi Shiwen was surprised to find that these hundreds of golden needles were also divine tools. He was secretly speechless. This old man treasures this set of golden needles the most. Now, he has used them all on this girl. It can be said that he is bleeding a lot. The old beggar said with a smile. Thank you, Senior. Yi Shiwen quickly expressed his gratitude. All right, you can take her away. It's useless to leave her here. I can't cure her without the reincarnation grass. The physician king waved his hand and said, Wait until you bring the reincarnation grass here. All right, you can leave now. Don't hinder me. If that's the case, this junior will take his leave first. I won't refuse any requests from Senior in the future. Yi Shiwen said, Now that you mentioned it, I suddenly recalled something. If you can get your hands on the reincarnation grass, you can use the leaves to cure this little girl. Leave the roots to me. I'll see if I can cultivate it again. If I can cultivate it outside, the merit will be limitless. The physician king suddenly said. However, he had only mentioned it casually. It was obvious that he hadn't really blessed any hope. Perhaps this matter was very unreliable in his opinion. After all, the probability of Yi Shiwen obtaining the reincarnation grass was too low. No problem, Yi Shiwen quickly said. As long as Yi Qianqian could be cured, everything else was secondary. Yi Shiwen put Yi Qianqian back into the Thunder Liquid Lake. Then, he and the old beggar left the physician king's valley. In fact, you don't need to take the old man's words to heart. The reincarnation grass might be found in other places. You don't need to take the risk and go there. The old beggar couldn't help but say. He seemed to be feeling a bit regretful. Senior, you don't need to say much. I've already made up my mind. Moreover, I'm not going there to fight for hegemony. I think the probability of finding the reincarnation grass should be much higher. Yi Shiwen said slowly. I won't say much since you've already made up your mind. It's just that the next opening of the Emperor's Road will be more than 1,000 years later. You should seize the opportunity to cultivate in these 1,000 years. You will have more power to protect yourself after you go there. The old beggar sighed. He saw that Yi Shiwen was determined, so he didn't say anything more. Thank you for your help this time, Senior. I will never forget your great kindness. Yi Shiwen said, You're too serious, too infatuated. It's not worth the risk. Forget it. Since this matter has been resolved, this old beggar will take his leave. We'll talk about it next time. The old beggar finished his words and instantly disappeared. He tore the space apart and left the ancestral land. Yi Shiwen didn't have such power yet, but he didn't plan to leave the ancestral land in the short term. There were only a few decades left until the ancient Phoenix Realm's son-in-law selection. He needed to be fully prepared. With his current strength, he still needed to fight against Ao Chaozong. He needed to find a way to rush into the undead realm intermediate stage. That way, he would have the confidence to defeat Ao Chaozong. He was determined to win this battle. There was no way he would give up. But now, he had a lot of trump cards in his hands. Not only did he have the leftover medicinal efficacy of the divine pellets, but he also had the heaven fire fruit, the thunder liquid lake, and many other treasures. It was enough for him to take a step forward. It should be enough for him to push his cultivation to the undead realm intermediate stage before the martial arts competition. He immediately returned to the Sui Emperor City, found a courtyard, and went into closed-door cultivation. The Sui Emperor City was the ruins of the Sui sovereign, and there was a branch of the Swearing clan guarding this place. No one had the guts to mess around here. He laid down the array formation and made sure that his aura wouldn't leak out. Then he went into closed-door cultivation and rushed into the undead realm intermediate stage. Every level of the undead realm was a completely different realm. Compared to the time in the immortal realm, it was much harder to advance. Without any other means, he didn't have the confidence to make any progress in the next few decades. After entering into deep closed-door training, Yi Shiwen fully stimulated the remaining medicinal efficacies of the divine dawn in his body, raising the state of his body to the peak. The mysterious space was fully stimulated, and countless kinds of heavenly law insights of the undead realm intermediate stage were deduced. A majestic energy constantly scoured his body, constantly attacking the realm of the undead realm intermediate stage. Chapter 2460. Dozens of years later, the ancestral land was a barren land. Endless dark clouds covered the sky in a grandiose manner, completely covering everything. Boundless lightning bolts descended, turning this place into a sea of lightning. The nearby tribes and demonic beasts also knew that this place seemed to have become a forbidden land. Since it suddenly became like this a few decades ago, the lightning never stopped. Moreover, the sound of fighting could often be heard, as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses galloping. It seemed to be an ancient battlefield. Dozens of years ago was not a long time, but it was not a short time either. Except for the people who had always lived here, no one knew what it was like a few decades ago. Nowadays, the new generation of the tribe had no idea what this place was like a few decades ago. There were also rumors that this place was an ancient battlefield since ancient times. There were strong warriors fighting here, and there were also rumors that two tribes fought here and blood flowed like a river. But a few decades ago, something strange happened in this ancient battlefield, and something unclean was born. Therefore, it attracted the wrath of the heavens, and it began to send down lightning to destroy the unclean things. These lightning were extremely dangerous, and there were even some tribe elders who saw lightning in the shape of humans and beasts. This kind of terrifying lightning that had never been seen for thousands of years completely made everyone lose the mood to go and find out what was going on. Fortunately, the lightning was only limited to that barren land, and it did not spread out in the past few decades. This also made many worried tribe elders feel relieved. But recently, the lightning seemed to be getting more and more serious, which made many tribe elders a little worried. This area of lightning hadn't dissipated for decades. Obviously, it was not a normal situation, but the nearby tribe was just a small tribe, and the strongest person in the tribe was only a demigod. They didn't have the ability to explore at all. This was a lightning tribulation that was even more terrifying than the divine tribulation they had heard of before. And while they were still guessing, in the center of the lightning, a man sat cross-legged, constantly making hand seals, attracting the lightning from the sky to fall on his body, and then it was absorbed by him little by little. This man was dressed in a green robe, and his face was handsome. Under the endless lightning baptism, his expression was still the same as usual, without any change. This was Yi Shiwen. 50 years ago, he had already left the Sui sovereign city because he had successfully stepped into the imperishable realm. He was already at the peak of the early stage of the imperishable realm, and with the help of the divine pills and the skyfire fruit, it was only a matter of time before he truly entered the middle stage of the imperishable realm. Moreover, there was also the mysterious space that constantly allowed him to comprehend the many laws and understandings of the middle stage of the imperishable realm. Everything was pushing the boat with the current, and he very successfully stepped into the middle stage of the imperishable realm. In the remaining 50 years, he did not cultivate according to his original path. Instead, he cultivated the thunder method recorded in the Thunder Talisman. The Lightning Talisman truly recorded 3 types of powerful lightning arts. In the past 50 years, he had spent most of his time cultivating these 3 lightning arts while verifying what he had learned. It could be said that he had gained a lot. He had already cultivated the flickering thunder steps to an extremely profound level, especially when combined with the demon wings. His speed was more than twice as fast as before. As for the body refining method that utilized lightning, it was a method that he had been cultivating for a long time. He had cultivated a kind of Dharma body, and he had named this physique as the Thunder Emperor physique. It was also an extremely outstanding body refining method. When it was fully activated, it would form a layer of lightning armor on the surface of the body, just like a battle armor. Its defensive ability would greatly increase, and when combined with the inner part of his gilded tyrant form, its strength would increase by several levels. The last one was also the most difficult to cultivate, the Thunder Emperor Sky-Piercing Cannon. It concentrated all the lightning and bombarded it out, destroying heaven and earth. Its power was boundless, and it was precisely because of this that it was extremely difficult to cultivate. In the sky, countless thunderbolts condensed into heavenly lightning soldiers and rushed towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. This was also a method that Yi Shiwen had used to summon the power of thunderbolts recorded in the Thunder Law. He could instantly transform the surrounding world into a sea of thunderbolts and turn it into a battlefield that was beneficial to him. He could also use this method to practice many thunder techniques. He had also used this method to summon the lightning for the past decades. At the same time, he had also sealed this area to prevent any random person from coming in and causing trouble. The seals in Yi Shiwen's hands were also getting faster as these heavenly lightning soldiers were getting closer and closer. He had formed hundreds of seals in an instant, and an incomparably huge thunder cannon was formed around his body. Bang! A huge roar was heard, and a terrifying lightning energy was emitted from the thunder cannon. It ferociously bombarded the incoming heavenly lightning soldiers. The heavenly lightning soldiers that were rushing over were instantly turned into ashes by this cannon. Yi Shiwen slowly opened his eyes and dispersed his magical power. At this point, the Thunder Emperor's sky-piercing cannon could be considered to have been basically mastered. It was not in vain that he had stayed here for decades without moving. In these decades, he had finally managed to successfully push his cultivation to the peak of the mid-stage imperishable realm while cultivating the lightning arts. Compared to himself a few decades ago, he was more than 10 times stronger. If the him 10 years ago could only be said to be able to contend with the peak of the imperishable realm and protect himself at most, then now he had the power to kill a peak of the imperishable realm. This was the biggest change. Ao Chaozong's strength was already infinitely close to the Sage Realm Divine Master level. Ordinary peak of the imperishable realm was definitely no match for him, but Yi Shiwen was still confident that he could defeat him. Apart from the Thunder Law, the biggest gain was that he had already completed the initial sacrificial training of the 10,000 method roulette. He did not need to use the 10,000 method roulette like before, which was practically killing him. He had also completely mastered the first form of the ruler's sword technique, Dominator of the World. He had also comprehended the second form, Invincible Being, from the sword talisman. That sword talisman contained extremely powerful energy, and it could be used to unleash a powerful attack. Combined with the ruler's sword technique, it could unleash an attack that far exceeded his own strength. However, he would definitely not use the sword talisman to attack unless it was absolutely necessary. He had yet to completely master the ruler's sword technique, and it would be a pity to let the sword talisman dissipate just like that. In these decades, he had already made all the necessary preparations. This time, he was going to give the people of the ancient Phoenix realm a huge surprise. Thinking of this, his appearance began to slowly change, and he slowly turned into a handsome man with a sharp and arrogant aura. I, the life-stealing scholar, am going to return to the world. Ha ha! This time he did not choose to participate in the martial arts competition for a spouse with his original appearance. Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that the people of the ancient Phoenix realm were waiting for him to deliver himself to them. Although they would not openly stop him, they would still secretly try to harm him. However, this time, he did not take the ordinary path. He decided to participate in the martial arts competition with the identity of the life-stealing scholar. He was going to give them a huge surprise at the end. Currently, he was using the lightning technique. Even if he didn't use any of his previous cultivation techniques, he would still be able to surpass all obstacles. Therefore, no one would be able to recognize him. If it was something else, he wouldn't have done this. He would have swept all the way with his original appearance. However, he was also afraid of an accident. If he was defeated in other fights, then he would lose Hua Menghan. But this time, if he failed, then he would lose Hua Menghan forever. Even if the ancient Phoenix realm had suffered heavy losses, its foundation was still unimaginable. Therefore, this was his only chance to take her away in broad daylight. He would not allow any accident to occur. The people of the surrounding tribes were stunned to find that the thunderstorm that had been raining for dozens of years had suddenly stopped. It seemed as if the thunderstorm had dispersed overnight. However, some of the tribal elders knew that the big shots who had been cultivating inside had left. However, a large number of tribesmen soon arrived. The thunderstorm had been baptized by the thunderstorm for dozens of years. Naturally, some heavenly treasures of the thunder attribute had grown. However, they were still young, so Yishuan naturally didn't care about them. However, these treasures were indeed a huge fortune for these human tribes who were still struggling on the road of cultivation. This could be regarded as a compensation for Yi Shiwen's disturbance for dozens of years. Yi Shiwen left the ancestral land very smoothly after he had experienced it once. He immediately rushed towards the ancient Phoenix realm. He had just entered the ancient Phoenix realm when he felt that several divine senses had swept over him. They were very powerful. The corner of Yi Shiwen's mouth raised into a sneer. Sure enough, they had made preparations in the periphery from the very beginning. So, he didn't know what methods they would use if they had confirmed his arrival. Yi Shiwen wasn't polite and directly killed these divine senses. He didn't give these people any face. He immediately showed the invitation letter that the martial great sect had given him as a candidate to participate in the martial arts competition for a spouse. Then, he ignored these people and directly stepped in. Arrogant. After a long time, these words came out from the void. However, nothing happened in the end. The two words martial great sect were enough to subdue many people. The martial great sect was the most powerful among the inheritances that had produced emperors in the past few years. It couldn't be helped. After all, Emperor Qin's prestige was still there. Although the ancient Phoenix realm had produced an invincible character like the Phoenix ancestor, that was something that had happened before the first heaven-defying war. So, it naturally couldn't be compared with the martial great sect. Moreover, it had been seriously injured, so it was like adding snow to snow. Those who had been selected by the king's sect to participate in the martial arts competition were all peerless characters. So, it was normal for them to be arrogant. Yi Shiwen sneered. He immediately flew towards the central region of the ancient Phoenix realm, the hidden world. That was the most central region of the ancient Phoenix realm. The martial arts competition for a spouse would also be held here. There was a huge crowd of people. Not only had many peerless characters come here in person, but many other clans had also come to watch the fight. Therefore, many experts of foreign races had suddenly appeared in the hidden world. Almost all the pure-blooded phoenixes had come here in the beginning. Chapter 2461. This was especially true for the heavenly Phoenix Lake, where many outstanding heroes had gathered. Many gods who rarely showed themselves were now bustling with activity, as if they had arrived at a supermarket. There are so many people who have come during this period of time, especially for the heavenly Phoenix Maiden. There are so many people who have come for her. That's true. The celestial Phoenix Maiden is the only one left in the heavenly Phoenix bloodline. Whoever marries the celestial Phoenix Maiden will have the hope to expand the bloodline of the heavenly Phoenix bloodline into their own forces. One can imagine how many people are coveting this matter. In the midst of the bustling crowd, a handsome and flamboyant man stood there, his expression incomparably relaxed. Look, isn't that the young master of the Heaven Evolution Sect, Shui Xiaohua? Although the Heaven Evolution Sect is located in a remote area, their strength is not bad. Shui Xiaohua can kill countless people to make a name for himself. His strength is extremely strong. Of course, in fact, Shui Xiaohua's strength and reputation have long been famous in the myriad world. However, he has always been fighting in the God Burial Star Ocean. I didn't expect him to come in person for this matter. Of course, he must come in person. Which one of the people who have come now is simple. If he comes in person, he will only be beaten to death. Even if he comes in person, I dare not say that he can win. Yi Shiwen looked and saw a flying palanquin descending from the sky under the support of 88 strong men. The palanquin was huge and looked like a palace. On top of this palanquin, there was a young man with black hair. His eyes were as sharp as a knife, and his aura was terrifying. Looking from afar, it made people shudder. However, there was more than one such person. In the distance, a purple goldenwood coffin broke through the void and directly entered the heavenly phoenix lake. Who is that coffin? What a terrifying aura, a demigod said while trembling. When the coffin broke through the void and passed above him, just the aura alone made him collapse. It was too strong. That's the Heavenly Corpse Sect's hidden corpse. I saw this name on the list before. He's very strong. Damn, it's actually that hidden corpse. Rumor has it that his body was found by the Heavenly Corpse Sect after the death of a god tens of thousands of years ago. They have been secretly cultivating him until he gained spiritual wisdom 100,000 years ago. It's only 100,000 years, but he's already so strong. Many people couldn't help but suck in a cold breath at the mention of this sect. There weren't many people in this sect, but they were all very strong. Their disciples came from various races, and they were the corpses of these races' gods that had died and gained sentience. They even found the corpses of king-ranked experts and nurtured them to gain sentience. It was very terrifying. However, the Heavenly Corpse Sect was a thorn in the side of many sects and races. This was because many of their ancestors had been taken away by the Heavenly Corpse Sect and turned into zombies. To the gods, this was the most unacceptable outcome. It was a humiliation. Therefore, there were not many people who had a good impression of the Heavenly Corpse Sect. However, it's useless no matter how many outsiders there are. The final champion will be our ancient Phoenix world. In order to deal with these outsiders, many peerless characters of our ancient Phoenix world have come out of closed-door training. Even Feng Zihao has come out of seclusion. He used to be an invincible existence of his generation. He will never let the bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix leak out. Some people of the ancient Phoenix world said indignantly, as a member of the Phoenix race, they would never let the bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix leak out as long as it was possible. Not everyone wanted to form an alliance with outsiders. I've heard that some ancient big shots are preparing for the Kerfus Road. Some of those evildoers have also appeared. It's impossible. Aren't those evildoers preparing for the Kerfus Road? How can a mere 1,000 years be enough? They still have time to participate. It's also possible that they are incarnations. Those evildoers are extremely terrifying even if they are incarnations. Not all forces were interested in this matter. The experts of many forces had only sent their clones. They weren't determined to win. Not all of them had come with their real bodies. However, only a few of them had come with their real bodies. And that was enough to shock everyone. The appearance of any one of these people was enough to shock everyone. However, all of them had come together. Everyone was dazzled. They didn't know where to look. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Yi Shiwen remained calm. Ao Chaozong. Ao Chaozong has arrived. Suddenly, someone shouted. He saw a luxurious carriage descending from the sky. Dozens of strong men were standing on the carriage. All of them were experts of the dragon race. They surrounded a man in the middle like stars surrounding the moon. Who else could this man be if not Ao Chaozong? Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. He immediately recognized that this man was Ao Chaozong. However, he was different from his previous incarnation. He had come with his real body this time, and his incarnation couldn't be compared with his real body. He was in high spirits. He was confident that he was invincible. He was a peerless figure. Even Ao Chaozong has come. Why hasn't Yi Shiwen appeared yet? Someone suddenly mentioned Yi Shiwen. Many people were in an uproar. This time, many people had come for Yi Shiwen and Ao Chaozong. Yi Shiwen was the nominal husband of the celestial phoenix maiden. However, he had no choice but to accept the fact that the ancient phoenix realm had recruited a new husband for the celestial phoenix maiden. This was equivalent to slapping the celestial phoenix maiden's face on the spot. This was simply trampling on a man's dignity. What kind of person was Yi Shiwen? Perhaps many people didn't know about him in the past, but after that, many people went to find out about him. From the time Yi Shiwen rose to prominence, they knew that he was a lawless lord. When he was still in the mysterious realm, he had dared to provoke a peak demigod. The word fear didn't seem to exist in his dictionary. Previously, he had slapped the ancient phoenix realm in the face for the celestial phoenix maiden. He had snatched away the title of the celestial phoenix maiden's husband. Although his strength wasn't considered too strong in the eyes of the older generation, they had to admit that he was also a lawless person. 100 years ago, he had fought an earth-shattering battle with Ao Chaozong's incarnation and killed it. Ao Chaozong's incarnation wasn't considered too strong in the eyes of many old antiques. Many people had the strength to kill him. However, just killing the incarnation would be useless. It would provoke an even more terrifying Ao Chaozong, who was infinitely close to the level of a divine master. Divine masters of the Sage Plane were all supreme figures who wielded great authority in their respective factions. King-ranked formidable martial artists rarely interfered with the day-to-day operations of their sections. Everything was controlled by the divine masters, and they were basically the upper echelons of the various king-ranked sections. Ao Chaozong had only cultivated for a few years, but he was already so close to that level. It was truly astonishing. Moreover, even if he could kill Ao Chaozong, he couldn't afford to offend the Dragon Island. Most people would retreat. However, this Yi Shiwen didn't know what fear was. He slapped people's faces and killed them without hesitation. At the same time, he had offended the two major forces of the ancient Phoenix realm and the Dragon Island. Many people came with the mentality of watching a good show and didn't mind if things got out of hand. What would a lawless person like him do when faced with these powerful figures? However, some people had been waiting here for almost a month, and they still hadn't seen Yi Shiwen appear. It was almost time for the martial arts competition to start, and there was still no sign of him. This was completely different from the impression they had of him being lawless and fearless. It was just that they didn't know that the person they were talking about was already among them and had yet to show his face. Could it be that he's afraid? Someone guessed. How is that possible? Do you think that's possible? With his lawless character, he wouldn't have appeared last time if he was afraid. It's hard to say. Ao Chaozong only sent an incarnation last time. But now, Ao Chaozong has come in person. Not to mention Ao Chaozong, any random person here is a peerless character, and there are even the incarnations of those monstrous geniuses among them. Isn't he throwing his life away by coming here? He might not even make it through the first round. It's just a mere 100 years. What kind of progress can he make? Judging from the strength he had displayed 100 years ago, he'll be dead if he dares to show up. Someone had seen the battle 100 years ago, and he remembered it very clearly. That's true. The situation 100 years ago is different from the current situation, unless he can make rapid progress in 100 years. But how is that possible? That's the realm of Tao confirmation. Maybe he'll show up at the last moment, someone said in disbelief. He did the same thing last time. He must be showy to death. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but blush with shame in the crowd. He didn't show up at the last moment because he was showy, but because he almost didn't make it in time. He had been cultivating all along. Everyone was talking about it, and they all had their own opinions. Yi Shiwen looked at the time, and it was indeed about time. He immediately dashed into the depths of the Sky Phoenix Lake with flickering thunder step. There was a special square there, and all the peerless characters who came to participate were gathered there. After showing his invitation, Yi Shiwen walked in with big strides. Deep in the clouds, a few figures were sitting on a high platform, looking at the peerless characters of the major forces in the square. Is that the person from the martial sect who came this time? Feng Nantian glanced at Yi Shiwen from the highest point. In the past 100 years, he had stabilized his position as the clan leader and gained great prestige. He could be considered to have completely stabilized the situation in the ancient Phoenix realm. That's right, it's him. A total of 2 people from the martial sect have come this time. The first one is Jiren Wang, and the second one is this person. According to the name registered, this person is called Deadly Scholar. Our people have already specially observed him. He should be a cultivator with the magical power of Thunder attribute. His cultivation should be above the eternal realm. However, it seems that he has concealed a lot of his strength. An important person from the ancient Phoenix realm replied. Just as Yi Shiwen had expected, the ancient Phoenix realm couldn't just watch as Yi Shiwen came to cause trouble. So, they had been paying attention to him since long ago. Chapter 2462. It's strange. Didn't our spies in the heavenly realm receive news that Yi Shiwen might have obtained one of the quotas for the martial sect? How come we don't see him at this time? Feng Nantian frowned. This didn't match the information he had received. This put him in a difficult situation. We have also checked the quota of the Hidden Valley. There's no problem with it. It's very likely that it's a pure-blooded Kunping. The Kunping bloodline rarely appears in the world. However, every time it does, it's an invincible character without exception. It doesn't matter if it's cooperating with the Hidden Valley. The bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix bloodline is incomparably noble. It's the head of the 10 great divine birds. And the Kunping is the head of the 10 great vicious birds. So, it's not a disgrace to the Heavenly Phoenix bloodline. After they've gotten together, we can bring one of their offspring into our ancient Phoenix world. In this case, we'll also obtain the bloodline of the Kunping bloodline. This will also be extremely beneficial to our ancient Phoenix world. However, it's different from the one who received the report from the Hidden Valley. It seems that he's a temporary replacement quota, someone said with dissatisfaction. He's obviously looking down on us if he can be replaced at the last minute for this kind of matter. Forget it. It's good that he's replaced. A pure-blooded Kunping is more powerful than anything else. Moreover, there are so many monstrous geniuses that have come this time. A pure-blooded Kunping may not be able to suppress all the outstanding heroes. It's hard to say. Feng Nantian shook his head and said, however, could it be that Ji Renwang is from the Ji family of the martial sect? Well, yes. Speaking of which, Ji Renwang and I are from the same generation. He was already incomparably dazzling at that time. However, he's always been obsessed with the Kurfürst Road. So, I haven't seen him for a long time. Someone said, once, when Emperor Qin had confirmed his Dao, an ancestor of the Emperor clan of the Ji family had served him with his life. He had fought in all directions and established an illustrious name for himself. Unlike the Emperor clan of the Ji family, which relied on the prestige of their ancestors, the Ji family of the martial sect had established their supreme prestige by relying on the bloody battles of countless clansmen. However, even though they were both from the Ji clan, it was clear that the two sides were not anxious. On the contrary, because the relationship between the martial sect and the D clan was tense, the relationship between the two sides was also quite tense. So it's him, Ji Renwang. According to the legends, when he was born, the heavens sent down a decree, condensing the two words human king. He really is born to be a human king. The bloodline of the Ji family is really terrifying. According to the legends, when the ancestor of the Ji family, Saint Emperor Xinyuan, was born, the heavens sent down a decree. The two words human king shocked all the tribes. Now, this Ji Renwang is not far behind. Because of time, many famous people in the past had fallen silent. They were not dead, but they were obsessed with the Kurfürst Road, looking for the opportunity. Back then, he was also one of these people. It was just that after tens of thousands of years, he could no longer hold on. Although it was said that he was looking for the opportunity, since ancient times, it was already hard to count how many amazing people there were. However, those who could truly obtain the opportunity were only a few. In recent times, no one had achieved the Tao because of this. Although Emperor Qin had also entered the Kurfürst Road, he had already been conferred the title of king at that time and shocked the world. However, because of this, many people thought that his Tao had little to do with the Kurfürst Road. Therefore, there had always been people saying that the opportunities on the Kurfürst Road had been exhausted, and it was impossible for anyone to achieve the Tao because of this. Therefore, many outstanding people finally could not hold it in any longer. One after another, they all withdrew from the competition on the Kurfürst Road and directly took a step forward, stepping into the realm of conferred king. He was also one of them. When the Kurfürst Road opened 200,000 years ago, he once took the first place and was one of the most dazzling people at that time. This time, even he has appeared, the martial sect can be considered to be sincere. Someone said, the bloodline of the Ji clan has produced many emperors. It is also noble enough. It does not disgrace the bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix. Of course, saying this was a bit too much. If it was only based on the number of emperors they had produced to determine whether the bloodline was noble or not, Then the Emperor clan of the G clan was enough to leave their ancient Phoenix world behind. Although it was the bloodline of the G clan of the martial sect, it was still the bloodline of the G clan. In addition, Ji Renwang's origin was indeed extraordinary. Therefore, they did not reject him. What about that life-stealing scholar? Feng Nantian could not help but ask. He felt a little uneasy in his heart. What exactly was wrong? He had never thought of it. However, he had a faint feeling that he must have missed something. What exactly is his background? I'm not very clear. Someone said with a bitter smile. Every major force had hidden talents that were unknown to the public. So, it was impossible for them to know everything about everyone no matter how powerful they were. In fact, if this wasn't related to a big matter of the ancient Phoenix world, then this kind of small matter wouldn't be under the control of these big shots. However, one thing is certain. It shouldn't be that Yi Shiwen. This person's thunder technique is profound. He has obviously cultivated for many years. He is completely different from the Yi Shiwen from before. I think that Yi Shiwen might be afraid. So, he doesn't dare to come. After all, the difference between this time and the last time is like the difference between heaven and earth. It shouldn't be a big problem if it isn't that Yi Shiwen. Presumably, it should be a disciple of the martial sect. We have plenty of time to slowly interrogate him as long as he isn't that Yi Shiwen. Moreover, it's hard to say whether he can win the championship or not. There are too many monstrous geniuses this time, Feng Nantian said. Many big shots nodded in succession. Many monstrous geniuses had only sent their avatars this time. Even these big shots wouldn't be able to sit still if they had come with their real bodies. That would be too terrifying. After all, many people's seniority was even higher than theirs. If that's the case, it's better that he didn't come. Let's start immediately. Don't give him this opportunity, Feng Nantian said. At this moment, he was also afraid of Yi Shiwen from the bottom of his heart. Yi Shiwen had already messed up his plans twice. If this went on, how could he still establish his prestige? He was very clear that there was still a huge gap between him and the Phoenix King. What kind of person was the Phoenix King? He was one of the top powerhouses, even among the titled King realm powerhouses. His prestige was incomparable. The Phoenix King had been in control of the ancient Phoenix domain for more than 1,000,000 years. It could be said that his foundation was profound. Even if he wanted to make a move on Huamenghan, he would have to consider the group of forces that the Phoenix King had left behind. Otherwise, why would he organize this martial arts competition for his spouse? Feng Nantian flew out as he spoke. He appeared in front of many monstrous geniuses and said, "Everyone, I, Feng Nantian, would like to express my deep gratitude for participating in the martial arts competition for a spouse held by our ancient Phoenix domain this time." Feng Nantian revealed his sharpness. The coercion of a titled king powerhouse spread out. Even those monstrous geniuses were a little moved at this moment. Even if they came with their real bodies, they would not be a match for Feng Nantian. Among the divine masters of the Sage Plane, they could dominate. However, compared to the titled King realm powerhouses, there was still a gap. Moreover, Feng Nantian was an expert among the titled King realm powerhouses. Unless they were willing to give up the opportunity to break through to the titled King realm, they would not be able to compare at all. Of course, among these people, there might be existences from the same generation as Feng Nantian or even older than him. Hence, Feng Nantian did not dare to put on airs. These were all monstrous geniuses, and there was no telling when they would suddenly erupt. The bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix is the most noble. Now, only the Heavenly Phoenix Lady is left. I also see her as my own daughter, and I want to choose a good husband for her. All of you are the best of the best. If any of you can emerge victorious, wouldn't it be a story that will be told through the ages? I hope that all of you will not hide your abilities. Give it your all, and this battle will decide everything. Feng Nantian glanced at the crowd. After Feng Nantian finished speaking, he pinched a seal, and there was a rumbling sound. In the sky, a huge door appeared, and it led to an unknown world. This is a fragment of a world that our ancient Phoenix realm has collected. We have buried 10 tokens in it. The person who obtains these tokens will be automatically transported to the final arena. This is considered the preliminary selection, Feng Nantian said faintly. The crowd was in an uproar. There were only 10 places in total, but there were more than 200 people present. In other words, there was only one token for every 20 people. Such an elimination rate could be said to be terrifying. Those who had the opportunity to become the representatives of the regal sect were all outstanding geniuses, without exception. Even so, they had to undergo such a terrifying elimination rate in the preliminary selection. One could imagine that the remaining people were all monstrous geniuses. The outstanding heroes were also in an uproar. They had thought that there would definitely be a preliminary selection, and then a semi-selection. However, they did not expect that the first preliminary selection would eliminate 90% of the people, leaving only 10 people. Such an elimination rate was too high even for these confident monstrous geniuses. After all, these competitors were all peerless monstrous geniuses without exception. So, no one had complete assurance that they would be able to defeat all of them. These beams of light will send you into this world. It's an indefinite transmission. Whether you can fight for the top 10 positions or not will depend on yourself at that time. Feng Nantian said. Then, a burst of beams of light fell from the sky and enveloped all the outstanding geniuses. Everyone didn't resist Feng Nantian's words. They allowed the beams of light to take them into that world. Yi Shiwen was no exception. Yi Shiwen was no exception. He took advantage of the mass of light and entered that world. This was an extremely large world. He swept out his divine sense and found that no one had appeared in his surroundings within a radius of 10,000 miles. It seemed that this was an extremely huge fragment of a world. In fact, it was almost comparable to a small world. However, once it exceeded the range of 10,000 miles, it actually started to be restricted. It was clear that the ancient Phoenix realm had already prepared for this. Yi Shiwen didn't stop as he immediately rushed forward. Everyone must have been allocated to different areas, and there should be a token in each area. There wouldn't be another opportunity if he missed it. The token in one's hand could be used to teleport directly to the arena. It didn't mean that one would have to fight to the end. After all, even the ancient Phoenix realm wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if a large-scale casualty occurred among these geniuses. Chapter 2463. Yi Shiwen launched the flickering thunder step and traversed thousands of miles with a single step. The entire world seemed to be desolate. Muffled loud noises resounded unceasingly. The mountains, rivers, and all living things were shrouded in a layer of mysterious power. Yi Shiwen didn't know which world this fragment belonged to. It was completely different from the worlds he had encountered before. At this time, the people outside were also watching the performances of the people in this world. Although this world was vast and boundless, the ancient Phoenix realm always had a way to display their images. The scope of everyone's attention was naturally different. However, these 200 people were all peerless characters. They didn't want to miss any one of them. There were many obstacles along the way. Many of the ferocious beasts had become obstacles for the people. However, they only slightly hindered their footsteps. Those two people are fighting. Hiss, it's Ji Renwang and the 8-armed silver dragon. Someone cried out in surprise. In the middle of the few scenes, a young man with peerless talent was fighting against a ferocious silver dragon with 8 arms. Both sides attacked each other without holding back at all. Both of them were peerless experts. This time, their attacks were earth-shattering. Even the world that the ancient Phoenix realm had prepared was showing signs of being unable to bear it. Why are they fighting? Don't tell me they don't want the token anymore? Someone asked doubtfully. These peerless characters might not have come to participate in this martial arts competition. Didn't you see that they haven't even come in person? Whether it's Ji Renwang or the 8-armed silver dragon, all of them have come with their clones. That's true. I've heard that when the Kurfürst Road opened 100,000 years ago, the two of them once fought in the Kurfürst Road. The 8-armed silver dragon suffered a great loss in the hands of Ji Renwang and directly withdrew from the Kurfürst Road that time. No wonder this time he was so crazy when he saw Ji Wang. This is a waste of people's opportunities, an old antique said ambiguously. He had also heard about the things that happened in the Kerfus Road, but he wasn't very clear about it. Ji Wang is even more terrifying than I had imagined. These 8-armed silver dragons are considered as a special species among the dragon race. They don't have many clansmen, but every one of them is an earth-shattering existence. They don't obey the rules of the heavens and earth, and they don't obey the rules of the Dragon Island. They are free and unfettered, but most of them are hot-tempered. They can destroy the world with just a thought, depending on their mood. Yeah, Ji Wang was actually able to force the 8-armed silver dragon out of the Kerfus Road. His power is unimaginable. Now that the real bodies of both sides are gone, the doppelgangers can fight with all their strength. But if the doppelgangers are already so powerful, how strong must the real body be? Someone couldn't help but ask. However, everyone could also see that whether it was Ji Wang or the 8-armed silver dragon, they didn't care much about this martial arts competition. It was more like they were here to deal with an errand. Heavens, how long has it been since it started? The first winner has already appeared. Everyone looked up and saw that there was already a victor on the battle ring above the clouds. Who else could it be other than Ao Chaozong? Ao Chaozong's clothes were clean, and he didn't look like he had gone through a great battle. However, those who were really paying attention to his battle just now were very clear that Ao Chaozong had gone through a great battle and defeated several opponents before successfully obtaining the token. So strong. Among so many top-notch experts, Ao Chaozong is the best. He hasn't shown his true strength yet. He is definitely the favorite to win. Speaking of which, Ao Chaozong is also one of the rising figures in the last 100,000 years. I heard that he planned to participate in this time's Kerfus Road. Who would have thought that his real body would come here in person? Looks like he is determined to get the Heavenly Phoenix bloodline. Everyone was staring at those heroes, and they all wished they could have a few more pairs of eyes to look at them. A few people who had been paid attention to for a long time had indeed gone on a killing spree. Although there were some monstrous geniuses who came, these monstrous geniuses obviously didn't care too much about this martial arts competition. Their real bodies were enough to kill in all directions, but they were only clones, and they couldn't suppress all directions. Therefore, they didn't care too much about it. The hidden corpse also won, someone exclaimed, and found that a coffin had appeared on the battle ring above the clouds. The hidden corpse didn't even come out of the coffin, and he didn't really fight. Even so, he still defeated many strong opponents and obtained a token. His strength is unfathomable. The third person to go up was the young hierarch of the Heaven Evolution sect, Shui Xiaohua. He led a luxurious carriage into the battle ring. Almost at the next moment, when Shui Xiaohua entered the battle ring, a man whose whole body was burning with flames also entered the battle ring. The flames dissipated, and a handsome young man could be seen. He was the peerless figure of the Phoenix clan, Feng Zihao. His appearance immediately caused a commotion among the many experts of the Phoenix clan. Fortunately, Feng Zihao's appearance didn't disappoint them. Although the first 3 places had been taken by others, he was able to become the champion in the end. The people who had won the championship relied on their tyrannical strength. A moment's difference didn't matter at all. However, what made them somewhat worried was that the Phoenix clan had sent a lot of people this time, but in the end, only Feng Zihao had passed the preliminary test, and the others had been defeated one after another. And at this time, the 5th person had also appeared. This was an incomparably huge tree that had descended from the sky. Its whole body was golden, and it looked like a golden tree. This was a divine wood powerhouse, and he also had an illustrious name in the outside world. Diamond Wood. He didn't even want to transform into a human form, and directly appeared in his original form. However, his strength was still not something that anyone dared to look down on. Diamond Wood was known as an indestructible wood, and innately had an indestructible body. After the Diamond Wood, the 6th person quickly appeared. It was actually none other than Ji Wang, who had just beheaded the 8-armed silver dragon. That battle was witnessed by everyone. It could be said that the sky and earth had changed color, and the sun, moon, and stars had dimmed. The 8-armed silver dragon definitely had the strength to be ranked among the top 10, but in the end, he was almost crushed by Ji Renwang. The difference in strength between both sides was still too big. Ji Renwang's real body had once caused the 8-armed silver dragon's real body to suffer a great loss, and the battle between the doppelgangers was unexpectedly without any suspense. Everyone couldn't help but sigh in admiration at Ji Renwang's strength. Even after experiencing a great battle, Ji Renwang still managed to catch up and become the 6th person. The 5 people who had already arrived were also quite vigilant towards Ji Renwang. This was a terrifying existence, and even if it was just a doppelganger, it was enough to give everyone a huge pressure. After Ji Renwang, the 7th person quickly appeared, and a huge, ferocious bird flew in from the sky. Kuan Peng's. Many people present were in an uproar. Not everyone knew that a Kuan Peng had arrived. The legend of Kuan Peng was naturally needless to say, and the legend of the ancient demon master was still a legend. However, since the decline of the ancient heavenly court, Kuan Peng's bloodline rarely appeared, and no one had expected to see a pure-blooded Kuan Peng here. This ferocious bird's body was full of hostility, and the power coming from its bloodline was shocking. Everyone didn't care about it because Kuan Peng was ranked first among the top 10 ferocious birds, and not among the ranks of divine birds, because the hostility of Kuan Peng was incomparably deep. As more and more people appeared on the arena, Yi Shiwen's incarnation of Deadly Scholar was still on the way, but he was a bit unlucky and couldn't find the token in time. In such a bright world, even with the range of the divine sense of the gods, it was impossible to find all the tokens in a short period of time, not to mention that the range was limited to 10,000 miles. 10,000 miles seemed to be endless, but it was like looking for a needle in a haystack in this world. Naturally, it would be a bit slow. Yi Shiwen also began to feel a bit anxious. However, he still quickly found the token in his area. He directly rushed towards the direction where the battle was the most intense, and sure enough, it was over there. In midair, a token was floating, constantly bobbing up and down. Yi Shiwen hurriedly rushed forward and was immediately stopped by 2 people. "This place has already been taken over by our overlord sect. Please stop." These 2 people were not ordinary people. Do you think you're the owner of a fish pond and take over the whole world? However, I'm also curious. Why is it allowed to bring underlings in here? Yi Shiwen said indifferently. The 2 people's faces were also very ugly. Yi Shiwen's words were clearly ridiculing them. That's right, Yi Shiwen was ridiculing them. These 2 people were definitely outstanding people in the outside world, but now they were willing to become the underlings of some overlord sex pond master, so they definitely couldn't look good. Think about it carefully. This is a live broadcast to the outside world, and your sect sent you here, so you definitely can't be someone's underling, right? You're really throwing away the face of your sect, Yi Shiwen said unhurriedly. The 2 people's faces alternated between green and white. Before they came in, they were also full of heroic spirit and wanted to make a name for themselves in front of everyone. Who would have thought that not long after they came in, they would be beaten to the ground? I think you're courting death. One of them was a young man with 2 long horns on his forehead. Yi Shiwen didn't know what race he belonged to. However, he suddenly pulled out a long horn from his forehead and thrust it towards Yi Shiwen like a spear. It seemed as if he wanted to kill Yi Shiwen in an instant. He was already completely angry out of humiliation. Dang! This long horn directly slashed down and landed 3 feet in front of Yi Shiwen, but it couldn't advance or retreat. It couldn't pierce into Yi Shiwen's divine body at all. Only this level? No wonder you can only be someone's underling. Yi Shiwen's words were not the slightest bit lenient, but his hands were not slow at all. A lightning spear directly condensed and incomparably bright, constantly bursting out with the sound of thunder, and then fiercely bombarded out, instantly piercing through the young man with the long horn, completely nailing him to the ground. With just one blow, he defeated an eternal realm master. Such a situation shocked everyone inside and outside the world. Chapter 2464. The other young man was completely shocked and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to be so fierce. It seemed that he had just stepped into the Eternal Realm, but he was able to nail an Eternal Realm late-stage master to the ground and keep struggling. At this moment, he only felt a deep sense of helplessness. They were all geniuses in their respective sects, but it was clear that if they wanted to dominate here, just being a genius was far from enough. You had to be a monster. Only then would it be possible. The one in front of him was probably the same as the one from the Overlord Emperor's sect. They were both monsters. Friend, why do you have to be like this? We were also entrusted by others. He could not help but say, I am too lazy to make things difficult for you. Get out of my way. Otherwise, if you die in my hands later, there will be nothing left to say. Yi Shiwen said faintly, pulling out the lightning spear from the long-horned young man's body, and blood splashed out. When the two of them saw this scene, how could they dare to stay any longer? They hurriedly ran away. This time, they had lost all their face. Not only did they not make a name for themselves, but they had also become someone else's lackeys. If this news were to spread back, one could imagine how big of a shock it would be. However, there were too many monsters here, and there was no way for ordinary people to survive. They even looked at Yi Shiwen with hatred. Let those two monsters fight. They did not want to get involved. At this time, Yi Shiwen rushed over, only to see that an expert of the ape clan had just defeated all the competitors, and his hand was about to take the token. Ja! A huge sound of breaking through the air came, and a lightning like a spear slashed towards his hand. His skill was extremely fast, and he dodged at the critical moment, narrowly avoiding the lightning spear. Who dares to plot against me? The expert of the ape clan suddenly became furious, and his gaze swept out, only to see that the person was actually a human, and he could not help but become even more furious. A mere human in the early stage of the Eternal Realm, at most the middle stage, dared to provoke him. It was simply courting death. His figure was vigorous, and he leaped hundreds of feet, swooping down from the sky. An iron rod appeared in his hand, and with a sharp rod, it smashed down towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not let him mess around, and directly reached out with one hand, blocking the rod. On! With a loud sound, intense radiance flickered, setting off a boundless energy tide. The strength of this expert of the ape clan was very powerful. He could almost sweep away anyone. His staff had smashed the sky down. However, Yi Shiwen didn't move at all. Instead, he received this attack with amazing strength. Who was that person? He was actually able to block Yuan Hong's attack? Someone asked in amazement. Compared to Yi Shiwen, that ape race expert was too famous. That Yuan Hong seems to be from a very mysterious organization. There aren't many people in this organization, but every one of them is an elite. Most importantly, this organization has always recruited experts from the ape race. They don't even spare a glance for experts from other races. Someone recalled and said, that's right. 100,000 years ago, Yuan Hong's performance on the Kerfurst Road was already very eye-catching. I didn't expect that even he would participate in this martial arts competition for a spouse. The ancient Phoenix realm has really put in a lot of effort. However, Yuan Hong should be a doppelganger, and not his real body. Otherwise, how could he not have seized a token? Who are you? Yuan Hong saw that Yi Shiwen was not beheaded in one strike and felt a little strange. This was very rare, and this was an expert worth paying attention to. Deadly Scholar, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. Yuan Hong's complexion became angry. This was obviously a nickname, and he was not even willing to tell his real name. He simply did not put Yuan Hong in his eyes. I don't care if you are the Deadly Scholar or not. You dare to snatch my token? Only death awaits you. Yuan Hong said coldly. Just a doppelganger. And you dare to be so arrogant? Yi Shiwen said coldly. I advise you to seize the other tokens now. Otherwise, you won't have a share if you don't have enough time. Arrogant. A mere junior dares to be arrogant in front of me. Yuan Hong said coldly. His name had already shaken the world 100,000 years ago, and Yi Shiwen was still unknown at that time. Naturally, he was not qualified to be compared with him. You can only rely on your seniority. Apart from having cultivated for a long time, you don't have any other abilities. Yi Shiwen sneered, and with a blinding thunder step, his whole body turned into a ball of lightning and instantly rushed in front of the token. Courting death, Yuan Hong suddenly became furious. Yi Shiwen was carrying out a surprise attack and did not put him in his eyes at all. He directly smashed the iron rod in his hand, and the void shattered. Between heaven and earth, divine power surged violently and exploded. Those who had been beaten down by Yuan Hong quickly screamed and fled in all directions. This power was too terrifying, and under the influence of Yuan Hong's anger, his strength was frightening. Yi Shiwen was injured, and a long halberd appeared. The light of the lightning triggered a thunder dragon and directly collided with the iron rod. Boom! In an instant, the halberd exploded on the spot. This was a middle-grade divine tool that Yi Shiwen had refined in the past few decades. For him, this was not a difficult task, and in order to conceal his identity, he simply made a full set. The Thunder Dragon halberd was the name of this long halberd, and it was very impressive. Both divine tools were not ordinary, and the violent collision caused countless people to be completely terrified. Even the many experts who were watching the battle were shocked to see this scene. The collision between the two was extremely shocking. Be it Yi Shiwen or Yuan Hong, they both displayed astonishing strength. Yuan Hong was only a clone, but he was already able to suppress many peerless geniuses. No wonder he was an antique monster from more than 100,000 years ago. If his real body was here, a cold snort would be enough to severely injure an ordinary, immortal-level expert. The deadly scholar was indeed amazing, as he could actually fight Yuan Hong's clone to a standstill. Die! Yuan Hong's hair stood on end, and with a loud roar, the iron rod in his hand smashed down at an astonishing speed. He did not hold back at all, and it was very much like the scene of violent apes wreaking havoc in ancient times. I'm not playing with you anymore. Yi Shiwen laughed and directly crushed the token. His whole body was instantly wrapped in a ball of light, and he was instantly transported to the arena above the clouds. Roar! Yuan Hong's loud roar could still be heard from the broken space crack. Damn human, I'll definitely not let you go. One by one, everyone who had arrived at the scene cast sidelong glances at Yi Shiwen. They had obviously recognized Yuan Hong's identity, but they couldn't understand what kind of method he had used to provoke Yuan Hong to the point where he had flown into a violent rage. Especially Ji Rin Wang. He looked at Yi Shiwen strangely because he remembered that there were two spots in the martial sect. One was taken by his doppelganger, and the other was taken by this life-stealing scholar. He also had some guesses about this life-stealing scholar's identity. Originally, he did not care much about these juniors. To the gods, they were immortals, and the ordinary way of categorizing them was meaningless to them. Therefore, they simply used the Kurfürst Road as the way of categorizing them. Those who were less than 100,000 years old were considered juniors, and those who were more than 100,000 years old were considered antiques. 200,000 years ago, he had already taken the lead. Ordinary juniors in the martial sect would not attract the attention of others. Every year, there would be a large number of people entering the martial sect. However, in 10,000 years, there might not be a single person who could compare to them. Therefore, he was a little interested in this deadly scholar. After all, he had given the place to this person. The martial sect was not too enthusiastic about this matter. The Qin Emperor had finally achieved the Tao with the body of a mortal, so he had always scoffed at the so-called bloodline. Only a decadent force like the ancient Phoenix Realm's Dragon Island would not let go to prove how outstanding they were. However, he also did not expect that this deadly scholar would actually make it to the top 10, and even provoke Yuan Hong to the point of almost stamping with thunder. Yi Shiwen glanced around and discovered that he was the 8th person and not the last one. However, he soon discovered a huge rock standing at the side, looking somewhat proud and aloof. However, Yi Shiwen could still recognize him at first glance, no matter how his appearance had changed. This Kuan Peng was the little foodie from the past. He had been taken away by the seniors of the Hidden Valley back then. Yi Shiwen hadn't expected that he would see this little foodie again here. Moreover, it had already grown to such an extent. Initially, He had wanted to keep little Kuan Peng as a spiritual pet. However, little Kuan Peng saw him as his closest kin. Humans were made of flesh and blood. Over time, the relationship between the two of them became very deep. Hence, he decided to let little Kuan Peng go. It was also to allow him to have a better future. Later on, he had asked the Master of Flames indirectly about the Hidden Valley Elder who had taken the young Kuan Peng away. It was very likely that he was one of the Hidden Valley's Regis, a pure-blooded golden-winged great Peng. Some said that the Golden Rock was the son of a phoenix, while others said that the Golden Rock's bloodline was very close to the Rock's. However, no matter what, it was still a bird's bloodline and was naturally more suitable to teach than him. Therefore, Yi Shiwen gradually felt relieved. When they met again, everything was the same, but the young Rock had become stronger. Although he did not know why he had become the representative of the Hidden Valley, it was naturally extremely advantageous for Yi Shiwen to have one more person on his side in the top 10 candidates. Both parties had a spiritual connection. Even though Yi Shiwen had changed beyond recognition, the young Rock still recognized Yi Shiwen immediately. It was only because Yi Shiwen had comforted him through telepathy that he did not recognize him immediately. Oh, it seems that I've occupied a good spot. The 9th 9x9 Supremes is referring to me, haha. Suddenly, a burst of loud laughter wrapped in a ball of light was transmitted to the arena. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.